Welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. It is Monday, May 4th. This is the time and place for the Grand Forks Growth Fund JDA meeting. Item 1 is roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Osowski.
Here.
Berg.
Here.
Blonsky.
Here.
Friedels.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Veen.
Here.
And Mayor Baczynski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 2 is action items. 2.1 is a PACE loan request for Twin State Environmental.
Thank you, Chairman Weigel, members of the authority. Fairly administrative issue to start with tonight. You'll recall last time we met, this was a loan approved to Twin State Environmental. It's a company that uses a robotic arm system to clean oil tanks and rail cars, and then they reintroduce sort of the byproducts back into the market. As kind of described in the staff report, there was just some cross wires in the pre-app process where the application included an incorrect list of guarantors. JDA policy is typically we just mirror the private lender. That's what we're looking to do in this case. So we're just looking for approval of the requested corrective action to make that happen. Myself, I see, Scott Tinsman, the third with the company, is also online should you have any questions.
I move approval. Second.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing first. Is anybody here to speak on item 2.1? 2.1? You can come. This is for the PACE loan request for the Twin State Environmental. Come forward. Just make sure you turn the mic on there. There should be a button.
I've never done this before. Hi, my name is Almaz Tegane, 1900 block of 24th Avenue. So with the loan, there's a few concerns that I would like to point out. That you guys had 5 guarantors previously. Now we're dropping it down to 1 guarantor, which is kind of concerning. It is an Iowa company coming into Grand Forks. Also, the loan is being guaranteed through an Iowa company. The Iowa company happens to be a fertilizer company. I know there's some issues with fertilizer currently, so I don't know how secure that loan is going to be. Also, just the fact that we're taking again from the taxpayers and giving it to companies when their company themselves said that they can make back the proceeds within 1 year. So it doesn't really seem like they need a 0 interest loan for 5 years to buy it down from 6.75 to 1.75, which is better than anybody's mortgage, I'm sure. And also it's only going to guarantee up to 6 jobs. Are we taking into consideration all of the jobs that are going to be lost? I think it's great because it is a dangerous job for individuals to do, that robotics are going to be doing that. But a lot of people are going to be losing jobs, and we're giving an out-of-state company money to ensure potentially 6 jobs in Grand Forks. So I think that there's a lot of concerns. And again, that's our taxpayer dollars that we're not going to see any benefit from.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
I have a comment on that. Actually, it's not these funds can't be used other places. It's a revolving door. This is what the funds are set aside for. And it was either voted on from the taxpayer or these are federal funds. And so we really can't use it for other stuff. It's a revolving door fund.
So I know the B&D is a $500,000 grant. So that doesn't even seem like money that they're going to have to pay back, number one. And that does come from taxpayer dollars. And the loan, I think that there could be other positive uses to benefit the citizens of Grand Forks. And again, not take from the many to give to the few. And it's a 5-year no interest loan and then it's going to be 1.75%. I think that's a little silly when I don't think anybody in here has even a credit card with that low of interest rate. Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on item 2.1? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing on item 2.1. Comments by the committee or motions?
I'll move approval.
Motion to approve by Osowski.
I'll second.
Second by Berg. Further comments?
Are we allowed to get comments? I think, does he have a comment on the phone? Are we allowed to take those? Or no?
Did you want to hear from the representative from the business? Mr. Friedels?
I think we should. Yeah.
Okay.
More for the.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
You can.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so Scott Tinsman, part of the Twin State Corporation. I am the owner of Twin State Environmental. Our parent company was started by my grandfather in 1958. And it is indeed a fertilizer company. The administrative issue with the application simply had to do with the fact that the entity used on the guarantors were a pass-through organization that were downstream of the Twin State Inc. entity and Twin State Environmental. So they didn't really mean much, which is why the bank needed a correction. I think in terms of the value we're bringing, I think that's clear, but because beyond jobs, it's sales tax dollars. And it's used to bring infrastructure to the facility so us and others can also develop that business park.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Friedolf. Further comments from the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 2.2, business park lot purchase offer, 2755 South 48th Street. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. This is, we've got a request to purchase 3.22 acres in the business park. This was a lot that we had previously sold and received back because they weren't able to build on it at that time as part of the requirement of at that time, and will be a part of this as well. They'll have they'll have 2 years to build on the lot. Otherwise, we will be able to recapture it again. This time we're going to sell for $5 a square foot, less that 3% real estate commission fee. So with that, I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. We'll open the public hearing on item 2.2. Is anybody here to speak on item 2.2? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. We have a motion to approve by
Second.
Sandy, second by Osowski. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.3, annual recertification of EDA RLF plan. Mr. Conlon.
Thank you again, Chairman Wiggle, members of the authority. Again, we'll bookend the meeting here with another fairly administrative item. In order to maintain compliance with EDA regulations, we are required to annually recertify our EDA RLF plan. So that's what we're looking for tonight. Happy to stand for any questions for that.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing on item 2.3. Is anybody here to speak on item 2.3? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Comments or motions by the
Motion to
committee?
approve.
Motion to approve by Mr.
Second.
Friedolf, second by Ms. Osowski. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
I move
We
adjournment.
have a motion to adjourn by Osowski, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll keep moving. This is the Grand Forks Council meeting for Monday, May 4th. Welcome, everybody. Roll call, please, Maureen.
Weigel. Osowski. Berg. Lensky. Friedels.
Here.
Bean. And President Sandy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 1.3, Mayor's announcements. Everybody's getting excited. Spring cleanup week, May 11th to the 15th. So get your items out on the berm. Try to wait till early that week if you can. I know I've seen some folks getting stuff out there early, which is fine, but the more we can wait, the more it keeps the area around that clean. As usual, keep the piles away from mailboxes, fences, playing children, all those things. So as the machine comes and grabs the stuff, they're going to do the best they can. You know, sometimes with these big piles, there could be a little bit left behind. So any help that people can do to help clean that up, but they'll do a great job. It'll be on your street ordinance day as best they can, and some of that will overlap between days. But definitely anything that you've accumulated, get out onto the berms. Separate, one other item, separate glass should be in their own pile. So if you've got mirrors and glass type of thing, try not to put that in the middle so it doesn't get broken as the big claw comes and grabs it, and just keep 4 feet of space between other obstacles. And also during that week, the landfill will have extended hours. So keep in mind we have a free drop-off. I think it's 4 times a year. Is that right? Yeah, 4 times a year. Monday through Friday of that week, it'll be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Saturday, you'll have a chance to from 8 a.m. to 11:30 to bring truckloads, van loads, whatever you got to the landfill. And then just wanted to mention that I told the folks at the Grand Forks Senior Center to give them a shout out. I was visiting them last Tuesday, so always enjoy that. Some great folks, great Americans. They really love the community, and great to be able to chat with them. So if any of them are listening, thanks for your time on Tuesday. All right, that's all for mayor's announcements. Item 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations.
2.1, we have 4 proclamations. I'll just read them off here and turn it over to you, Mayor. First, Workers' Memorial Day, April 28th. Second, National Small Business Week, May 3rd through 9th. Third, National Day of Prayer 2026, May 7th. And finally, Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day, May 9th.
Thank you. We've got 4 of them today, so I'm not going to read them all off. I'll spare everybody, but they're available and great to see. And I do know we've got a couple friends in the crowd today, Mr. Fromke and Mr. Honda. I know you're here and you'd like to say a few words about the Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day. So if you wouldn't mind coming up, we appreciate you being here year after year and not only helping out with this, but many things around the community. So, Mr. Honda, please. The floor is yours.
Okay. Nationwide, the food drive has been going on about 36 years. It was just a pilot program when it started, 300 branches across the country. Got into it, and our branch, 517, got into it the next year, and they looked at maybe the heaviest guy in our branch and appointed him food drive coordinator. And after it was over with, he said to the branch at a union meeting, "I'll never do it again. It was too much work." And the whole branch at that meeting turned around and said, "You're the next food drive coordinator." For 34 years or more later, I'm still doing it, even though I'm retired. But, I encourage people that to leave stuff out by their mailbox, non-perishable items, and and the mailman, if it's a walking up to your house, if it's heavy, he'll take that, or her will take that and put it by the curb. And then when they drive by, or when the helpers drive by, they'll take it away from him. Now, the food banks are really in a hurt bag. The people who go to food banks are in a hurt bag. And people have told me when I did radio interviews, I did one today for half an hour, and they told me that they feel embarrassed about going to a food bank. And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, my neighbors might see me at the food bank." And I said, "The food bank is there for people who need it." "Well, I might be embarrassed if my neighbor sees me." And I said, "One day you might be driving by a food bank and see your neighbor in a line at the food bank. So don't ever feel embarrassed about going to a food bank. That's what it's there." And we're struggling. 30-some years ago, Grand Forks Branch 517 did the most in North Dakota and South Dakota, 62,000 pounds. And last year, Grand Forks, and I'm happy with it, what they collected. I'd be happy if they just collected a 6-ounce can of pork and beans. But last year, 4,000 pounds in a city of 60,000 people. I mean, I could rant and rave about people not donating to the food drive. But all I want to say is do your best. Do whatever you think you can donate. And then we'll be happy. We'll be picking it up. And we're also accepting checks. Put it in an envelope, and if you want to mail it, you can mail it to P.O. Box 1224 58208, and the checks should be made out to NALC Branch 517. And also, if you want to donate a check, send the check to my house, Ralph Honda, 1006 Belmont Road, Now, don't put my name on that check. I mean, don't put my name on that check. You know, put it NALC branch 517, because the food banks need money for something that they can't get donated, you know, like meats and stuff like that. In closing, I'd just like to say to you, the mayor, and to the city council members, I'd be happy if some of you got together and toured some of the food banks and see what it's actually like. You know, in Grand Forks, figures come and go, but 4 out of 10 children under the age of 10 go to bed hungry. And I've been doing this for 34 years, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. You know, I don't mean starve. They go to bed hungry. And if the public here and the city council and the mayor want to leave a check with me, I'm sitting in back. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Honda. And then just so everyone's aware, Saturday, get that food out there for your mail carriers. If they're on a walking route, they'll come back later and get it. But this is really a call to action. I think our food banks are hurting, and that's something we can all do to help out. And I think that's a cause we can all agree on. So thank you, Mr. Honda. Mr. Fromke.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Mark Fromke. I'm president of the Northern Valley Labor Council, AFL-CIO of the unions. And I want to first thank you, because every year we come to the City Council and ask for a resolution for Workers' Memorial Day. And Workers' Memorial Day is April 28th. And we always do a program for that day. And so why is April 28th important? Not just to the labor unions, but to all workers. In 1970, at a different time when actually people wanted to accomplish something in government, you know, at the federal level, the United States Congress, the House and the Senate passed what is called OSHA. And President Richard Nixon signed OSHA into law. And so the AFL celebrates that day to remember all the workers who were killed, both union and non-union, on the job. And so this year in North Dakota, 15 workers were killed on the job. And that's way too many. And the truth is, every worker that goes to work has a right to come home in the condition that when they left, you know, in the morning to go to work, to come home if they're alive and no injuries to their limbs or anything else. And so we always want to remember those people who died on the job. And this year, like I said, was 15 in North Dakota. And that's 15 too many. And so in kind of closing, I want to thank, again, the city council and the mayor and my friend Todd for always being respectful and helpful for this continuous resolution every year. And so we want to thank you. We respect you giving us that resolution because it means a lot to us. It means a real lot to us and so forth. So on behalf of the AFL-CIO and all the workers that we represent, we want to say a big thank you again for the appreciation of recognizing the importance of Workers' Memorial Day. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Fromke. And if anyone wants to go visit the Workers' Memorial, it's right at Bringwalk Park there on the northwest corner, kind of by the sand volleyball courts. So if you ever get a chance, it's pretty neat that we've got that here in the community and something that's overlooked. So Mr. Honda and Mr. Fromke, thank you again very much for both what you do and for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 3, public hearings and second reading of ordinances.
3.1 is a public hearing on application for property tax incentive, a payment limit tax from CK Commercial LLC, the Palmer, formerly referred to as Kingsview.
All right, thank you. We will start with the public hearing, item 3.1. Anybody here to speak on item 3.1, please come up to the microphone. Please.
It's on. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Oh, Mona Leak, 3231 Lord Circle. I'm here tonight to go on record. I was going to send an email, but I'm here again saying I want to be on record opposing these pilots for apartment construction. I've spoken against the pilots before at the city council, the county commission, school board. And I'm not going to repeat what I've said prior. And there may be others that will do that, but I want to be concise. I have a couple of things perspectives that I'd like to present tonight. And one is housing. It's a big issue for me. I think owning your own home is very, very important. Lot prices in Grand Forks are high because the land is owned by a few landowners. This is a common knowledge, and it drives up our housing prices. So let's look at what happens when rentals in Grand Forks, these pilots, are going to 3 or 4 developers, and you add these apartments to what they already own, what they already manage, and we have the same type of situation. We will have rises, if that's correct, in rental prices. When you have a rise in your price, that means the young person, the couple who want to own a home have a harder time getting a down payment together. So I think this is just the opposite thing we want to do. Also, the city has done absolutely nothing, and I hate to be harsh, but the city has done absolutely nothing to encourage single-family homes being built in our community. I've heard a lot of excuses. But in addition to this, what really piles on is that there's been no control of rental properties in our neighborhoods. And I know there are things that could be done by the council to limit the percentage of rentals that are invading all of our neighborhoods. I think we should be working on trying to get as many people in homes as possible. But it's compounded because you just continue to give pilots for apartment buildings. No mention of what you're going to do for our city and our people who want to own homes. Another point about these 5-year pilots, it's like the city council, and I'm harsh again, is snubbing the school board and the county commission. You guys are controlling this. You're controlling money that they will not receive. And we all know they're broke. They need every dime they can get. And because the law states that you can do this, you are doing this to the other government entities. And if I were them, I would be very resentful. And I hope this can be resolved, that this can't happen in the future. And I appreciate all your service. I don't mean to be harsh, but let's get on board for the community, for people who want to own homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leak. All right, any others on item 3.1? Is that Mr. Samuelson? Yeah. All right.
Harry Samuelson, 1001 Cottonwood Street, greatest city in the world. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I am here to urge you not to pass this pilot, turn it down. I disagree with the ideas behind it. I disagree with the application of it. And I disagree that the way that this is being done is a benefit strictly on the way it is supposed to be listed in the Century Code. Here's a Century Code. I urge everybody to look this up. Chapter 40-57.1. 40-57.1-01, Declaration and Findings of the Public Purpose. I'm going to abbreviate some of this, and I'm going to use this particular time to address both of these projects because they're closely related and pertinent in how they should be addressed by the citizens and this council. The legislature, they set up these provisions of this chapter to sanction, authorize, and encourage activities in the public interest and for the welfare of the state, its subdivisions, and the people by assisting in the establishment of additional industrial plants, the expansion and retention of existing business, and promotion of economic activities within the state, and thereby increasing production of wealth and adding to the volume of employment. Great things. In the applications that you have from both of these pilots that list this Century Code as being the prerogative they need to follow, one of them has an employment history or an employment over the term of the pilot of less than one person a year. The other one is 2.5 people a year. That's not an employment benefit. It is the intent of the legislative assembly that political subdivisions and the state board of equalization in their determination of whether the state tax exemptions authorized by this chapter shall be given due weight to their impact and effect upon existing industry and business, to the end that an unfair advantage shall not be given to new or expanding enterprises, which is to the substantial detriment of existing businesses. We've all seen what some of these plans are. You've got all kinds of amenities that are going in there. Maybe you got some gray areas and stuff like that. But let's look at it just even on the surface. You're talking apartments. There's plenty of apartments all over this city. Now, we might need some more, but they're already existing. And you're going to affect those people detrimentally because you're allowing somebody else to charge less, make more money, have an advantage over those people. It's also very ironic that you're having this discussion and you're going to be making this vote, taking that into account on National Small Business Week. So the primary going down, 40-57.1-02, the primary, I'm going to abbreviate this, the primary objective of the corporation or limited liability company must be to benefit the community through increased employment, payroll, business volume, and corresponding factors rather than monetary profits. Any monetary profits or other benefits going to the shareholders or members must be merely incidental to the primary objective of the corporation or limited liability company. All right, so now we've established that their main means shouldn't be money. Again, in these applications, what's their main purpose? What is their main job description? Services. What services are they talking about? Well, they're going to manage their own properties and advertising and stuff like that. You're not going to add anybody to the payroll. You're not going to make much more of a benefit. All you're doing is helping them provide more profits for themselves. Also, when you get down here to the part where you have part 3, primary sector businesses has the meaning provided in section 1-01-49. 1-01-49 Century Code. Primary sector business means an individual, corporation, limited liability company, partnership, or association certified by the Department of Commerce, Division of Economic Development and Finance, which through the employment of knowledge or labor adds value to a product, process, or service, which results in the creation of new wealth. Once again, by this loan application process, they're not providing any of that to the arena of services. Furthermore, for purposes of this subsection, new wealth means revenues generated by a business or tourism operation in this state through the sale of products or services to A, customers or visitors from outside this state. Clearly not what we're doing, because we're looking to get people to be residents of the state. And then B, customers in this state of if the products or services were previously unavailable or difficult to obtain from a business in this state. Once again, while we might have some housing issues and apartment issues, we don't have 0 apartments. We don't have people living out on the streets because they can't get into an apartment. There are apartments available. There are other places and other ways that these people can do these operations without violating the Century Code and not having to be having the city be a party to it and subsidizing it. They're not a primary sector job. They're not meant to be part of this thing. We don't need the extra apartments. We don't need the extra apartments alone, and it's not worth it for us to spend our money or forego monies for just this particular purpose. So once again, I am hoping that everybody will look this up in the Century Code. The pilot agreements, these pilot applications are all right there. They're all listed. This is exactly how it is supposed to happen from the state. And that's not what's happening right now. And I wish you would vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samuelson. Any others? Mr. Berclair, welcome back.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Here to speak in opposition of the proposed apartment building. I hope to add some new information to what's previously been presented. One of the things that amazes me is Baker Tilly's analysis and the previous developers. I've seen anything from we need 95% for 20 years, 90% for 20 years. That's equivalent, right? 4th grade math, 19 and 18 years tax-free. Now we have the exact same developers and projects saying 5 years, 100%, 5 years, 90%. We may hit our financial returns. Can somebody explain to me why that's occurred? Why? The fact that none of you can answer that simple question ought to say to the credibility of the financial analysis that's presented. Do you think we're giving too much away more than we have to? I absolutely think so. Why is this a problem? First, this creates an uncompetitive advantage to everybody in the apartment buildings. There's also businesses such as golf that compete with those businesses. You have exercising, outlets, etc. It's direct competition. You're subsidizing it. That's unfair competition. And it hurts your best customers, your best residents of Grand Forks. For 140 years, people have built apartment units in this place and paid what? 100% of their taxes since when? Day one. Anybody want to fact check me on that, please? And all of a sudden, every apartment building needs from 5 to 19 years tax abatements. The craziest one, I don't understand, maybe somebody could help me, gets back to Memorial Village. Memorial Village 2 to be precise. They requested, Baker Tilly recommended a 90% property tax abatement. The school of all places said, let's give them a 95%. That was the business analyst there? That's crazy. They're hemorrhaging money and they gave them 95%. Why would you give away money to people who don't need it? Second, what problem are you really trying to solve with your apartment incentives? I heard at one time we had 1.5% to 2% vacancy rate in Grand Forks for apartment. Is that correct, Mr. Phelan?
Please address the board, Mr. Berclair. We've told you many times. Address the board up here. Thank you, sir.
Is that correct, Mr. Phelan? I'm a citizen asking a basic question.
Please continue, Mr. Baclair. This
Please
is your,
answer
this
the
is your
question.
time to speak. Please continue.
I'm speaking, I'm asking a question. As I understand, I'm a citizen, you're here for who?
Yeah, Mr. Baclair, it's a comment period, so please make your comment, sir.
I would like my question answered. Why don't you answer basic questions? When people don't, you're Councilman Weigel, right? You're lieutenant at UND. My understanding, you have investigated.
Mr. Baclair, are you
I'm
speaking on
addressing-
this item? Please
I am.
keep your
I'm getting to
comments
my
related
point.
to item 3.1. I don't think Mr. Weigel's employment is related to item 3.1.
Can I finish? When
We'll
somebody
give you a
asks you
little
a
bit of length,
question,
but we
and you
need to
do
get
an
back to item
investigation, they
3.1,
don't.
please.
Can you please stop interrupting me? I do not interrupt you, sir.
Please continue, Mr. Baclair.
When somebody doesn't ask a question, right? What are they generally concept? They're trying to hide something. So let's get back to apartment vacancy rate. There was a survey done, right? Why didn't you use real market data? Go to Zillow. It's over what? 4%. Apartment.com has 6% vacancy rate showing. They're both underrepresented. You know why? And basically it's 60 to 80%. Please fact check me on this because people list things on Craigslist. They also list things on Facebook and private listing. So it's underrepresented. I don't know where you got 1.5 to 2%. That's fake data, intentionally misleading the public. Another point is it looks like we're trying to do, what problem are we really trying to solve? There's no apartment vacancy rate in Grand Forks. You're 5, 6, 7%. What really seems to be solved and what Baker Tilly's report is the developer's return. That's all it's about is the developer's return. So my question is, Mr. Mayor, when did it become the taxpayer's responsibility to guarantee the developer's returns? Could you please answer that simple question? Because that's what the Baker Tilly report addresses. It's awful quiet in here. Am I asking trick questions? I have an offer for you. I made an offer before about independent quality market analysis when it comes back to FUFENG, corn basis market research, how important that is. I'll give the equivalent offer here. There's 4 firms that do meta-analysis, big picture analysis of the impact of what, when you add subsidized apartment buildings, it looks to me like you did 700 already. You're on the course to 1,000 into a market of what? 11,000, 11,500, 12,000. These firms will look at the impact of subsidized apartments, what you're going to do to the existing price, the vacancy rate, and the property values. A rough rule of thumb is for every 1% increase in vacancy, do you know how much property values drop? You should know that answer, 2%, 2 to 3%. Guess what happens? You build new apartment buildings. People want to go to the new apartment buildings. They don't want to be in the existing ones, do they? So their vacancy rate goes up, right? Their property values goes down. What happens to tax revenue? Goes down. So all of a sudden you have what, close to 8, 9, 10% new apartment buildings, not paying any property tax. You all have all the existing property buildings decreasing in value. Should you take my word for it? Absolutely not. I'll make an offer to the developers that have their trough up here. The quality report's $35,000 to $50,000. I'll write the check, put it in escrow. They give me 3 to 1 odds. If it comes back that it says these effects of all these subsidies drive the value down existing park builders, right? They write a check to me for $150,000. I'm not. Anybody think I'm not willing to write the check tonight? That's how bad it's gotten here in Grand Forks. So I urge you to table the discussion, not to approve it. Do a market-based study. There's 4 companies. I'll list them here. I'm sure the person, is Steve with Baker Tilly by chance? Just that, I don't know the individual on screen. Could somebody answer me the question? Steve, are you listening?
He said correct. Correct. Thank you. I'm sure he's familiar with the firms, Yardi Matrix, GCL, CO, Cushman Wakefield, Nordvgrad DAC. Right? Do you think you should spend $30,000 to $50,000 to see if you're harming the existing residents, existing apartment owners? I think it's a good use of money. If you won't spend it, I will. There's the offer. So with that in mind, please take that in consideration to table discussion and do the proper analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beclaire. I think Mr. Honda would take that check and put it towards the food bank if he could. Thank you. Please.
Hi, Alma's Tegano again, 1900 block. So I know your guys' job is very difficult. I would not want to be in your position. And I know one thing I do understand, I was in the military for 20 years. I understand compartmentalization. And that's what's happening in Grand Forks. There's a lot of plans. There's a lot of things moving all at once. You guys are being told certain things to push agendas certain ways, and you're only given certain bits of information. I just ask everybody to look deep and not listen to the powers above, the people pushing the money, the millionaires and billionaires, the people above you that are saying we need these agendas pushed, because at the end of the day, we answer to somebody greater than any man or woman that is in this state or this country. And we all have to be okay with those decisions. What's happening, all of the development, everything, we don't need to go into it. It's happening all across the country. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be good for anybody. And a lot of people are being manipulated in many different ways. And we know that. And usually the people at the bottom, making the decisions are going to be the ones getting thrown under the bus when things get revealed, which unfortunately has already happened. And I just ask that you guys look deeper and ask questions when we're giving money to all of these individuals that don't need the money. And just like Mr. Holmes, I believe, said, we have children that are literally going hungry in this state every day. And we're profiting millionaires and billionaires. So please just look inside yourself and remember, you should fear no man but God. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others on item 3.1? Please, sir.
Hello. My name is Darren Johnson. I live at 6100 Kingsview Drive, and I'm specifically talking about a building that could be going up right next door to my condo. I understand what they're doing. I understand that we want to make Grand Forks a great place and we want to keep developing it. But when you say something to the effect of government subsidized housing on the golf course, I mean, kind of an oxymoron a little bit there, that we're talking about giving rent, or giving a bonus for building a government unit that close to us. I wanted to make it brief. I would like to talk to my council member too a little bit after this if we could. And then also, it's going to change the traffic flow for that entire neighborhood. I guarantee you, I've seen you out in your yard with your kids. It's going to change it, and not for the better. So we'll chat afterward.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Krausnick, please.
All right, thanks for having me. I might not have a lot to say. Those guys and gals said quite a bit, and it was a lot of good stuff. I just have some notes for this first public hearing. It might be a few more minutes. And the second one, I promise it'll be a lot less. There's a lot of overlap. There's some specifics. Harry beat me to it, but I was going to point out the hypocrisy of this being National Small Business Week. I will read the first sentence of that. Whereas small businesses are the engine of the American economy and the foundation of a free and prosperous nation, accounting for more than 99% of all private sector employers and creating nearly 2 out of every 3 new jobs nationwide. There's a lot more to it, but I won't read the entire thing. I'm here as a small business owner, but I'm also representing a lot of other taxpayers in the community and myself as a taxpayer. it affects way more than just my business with Albatross. It affects all the rental property owners who, as these other folks said, will be impacted in their small business. They own a twoplex, they own a fourplex, whatever it may be. So I have questions and I have some comments. I know I don't get a lot of direct answers, but if you answer, that's great. For CK, in the Baker Tilly report, it looks like they're assuming a 7% vacancy after stabilization. We haven't had that vacancy for quite a while, and I'm curious why they're factoring that in and how that was acceptable. I want to make sure this project's not sold as low income, and there's some serious questions with that. So it's not a Brookstone situation where there are a lot more of low income or moderate income. 31 of the 45 units look to be at 80% of area median income or market rate. And I've pointed out the lack of integrity of the system for Baker Tilly, not of a person previously. But this had an instance where the first analysis by Baker Tilly, Michaela Hewitt, was submitted, committee of whole, it was posted, I read it. And then I saw that it was updated prior to the city council meeting. Then after that, I asked Sherry, and by the way, Sherry is one of the most valuable assets the city has. She's been phenomenal since I started my business. Always gets me information that she has right away. I was told that it was adjusted based upon Mr. Phelan's request. So the first report said there were 9 affordable units. That's what Baker Tilly said. And then when I saw it was modified to 26 affordable units. And I thought we were hiring Baker Tilly for unbiased third-party analysis, not for a narrative change or a narrative at all. So that really concerns me that it would be asked to be modified. Also, I mean, have you guys ever seen a but-for test by any analysts, Baker Tilly or otherwise, that actually said, nope, it's not needed, we're good to go? That's a concern. All of your financial analyses that you show for these projects, it never shows what we're foregoing. I know you, Mr. Sandy, last meeting asked about what's the developer foregoing, and that was great. But normally these reports only show our net gain over that period or afterwards. Talking about the authority to approve, and I know Mona mentioned it, and I think there'll be some stuff at the meeting tomorrow at the county actually about this, but you're just shoving these down the throats of the county and the school board. They don't have any choice in these 5-year agreements right now. And it's just not right. You talk about being partners with these other taxing entities. That's not a partnership. So now, how is it possible that these are going to work with a 5-year 90% when just a couple months ago, Mr. Phelan, and back in December, he said, these can't make it. They need a higher incentive. They're on the shelf. I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense. The housing incentive funds, those will help cover the rent controlled nature of some of the units, but not the taxes they were looking for. I want to know how much was collected for the developer fee for these projects too. So they put a pre-application in last April, and that amount was, back then, would have been $2,500. Did they pay $2,500 or did they pay $10,000 like you guys changed it to? It's great that you guys bumped that up, but why aren't we just billing these applicants whatever it costs? If they want to apply for this and they want to run the risk of maybe being told no, why aren't they paying the full bill? I did a request through Sherry, and she got it for me right away for all of the Baker Tilly projects in the past, and the average was about $10,000 for all of them. I'm going to point out again, and I keep saying it, I still haven't received an invoice, and it's not Sherry's fault, but I haven't received the invoice for Northridge's The Reserve. That finished in September 2nd or 5th. It's 9 months later, and we don't know how much the city, the taxpayers paid them to try to sell that project. She was here multiple times at the county in person, I think on a conference call. She was at the park board, the school board, excuse me. A lot of money was spent, but I still don't know how much. And then we'll get to the actual public purpose that you're selling. And some of these folks talked about the vacancy. I have the vacancy reports. You're talking about a housing shortage. But when I ask you guys, I don't get answers as far as what do you need to see for vacancy for us to say no to these? So the vacancy reports that I got last July, because when I started hearing the mayor on May 19th, you said we're less than 2%. And then Mr. Phelan at a county meeting said we're less than 2%. I asked, how are we getting that number? Because I had the vacancy reports already. And the fourth quarter of 2024, per the Apartment Association, which would have been our last good read on vacancy because it was before the airmen came here from South Dakota temporarily, we were at 6.55%. And that was based on about 7,800 units. And I think Sean or Harry said we have about 11,000 units in town, 11 and a half. So it's a decent sampling. But then when I asked Mr. Phelan, he got back to me right away and gave me the information, which was great. He shared a consultant's memo from Wyzetta for a firm that was paid for by Northridge Construction, who was asking for the incentive at the time. That vacancy rate, it was just a portion of the report. They were looking for feasibility analysis on a project they wanted to build. Well, that report, they took a small sampling of similar type of apartments, so some higher end units, I believe, and they pulled 876 units, and that vacancy showed 1.3%. And then Mr. Phelan also told me that you guys sampled or pulled your multifamily partners in the community, and they said we were at 0 to 1 to 3%. I asked who are those partners, and I was told Dakota Commercial, Northridge and Oxford, and then IMM. So we're talking about the main folks that have been the beneficiaries of these incentives and the ones who are applying for them and the ones here tonight. I mean, why would you share your full vacancy data? Most people I talk to that have 2-plex, 4-plex, they don't even want to share their own vacancy data. But again, that vacancy rate with the best data we have showed that we were more than healthy. I know in that Blue Ribbon Commission we talked about, or you guys talked about 6 to 7% was healthy, but even 5 to 6% looks like that's a norm. This last year, the airmen were here the entire time. It's hovered around 3.5%, but you add about 125 units back in that those 800 to 1,000 airmen took, and our vacancy's right back up. So we're in a safe spot. Then last summer, you guys hire Praxis Strategy Group. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. Mr. Schill provided a memo and an analysis, and now it looks like the EDC and the chamber are working on with them as well. It looks like some of the same data. I know you asked about who's paying for it, but if the EDC is paying for it and the chamber's paying for it, some of us are still paying for it because they do get some tax dollars and some sponsorships and some memberships from the city. But we paid Praxis $2,000 to look at Zillow rents data, and his conclusion was that the rising rents since 2022 equated to a lack of supply. It's not just that simple with economics. There could be other factors at play, but instead of just looking at vacancy data, that's the route that he went. Everything's risen since COVID, not just housing, so it makes sense that rents have escalated. Also, we have a transient population with the Air Force Base. They don't have the option of not paying for housing. They have to have a place, so landlords can have higher rents. A lot of UND students don't care about debt anymore, or a lot of students in general, a lot of that age. They can take on debt. They can live beyond their means. And they're not going to be worried about it. And then we talk about growth a lot, but if we look at the census data, we've only gone up about 700 people from 2020 to 2024. And I know Mr. Schill also pointed out something to the effect of that has to do with reporting during COVID, but I pulled some similar cities and larger cities in North Dakota. Our growth rate in that period then was about 0.8. But Bismarck is not that much bigger than us, and they showed a 5.6% increase. Fargo is a lot bigger, and they showed an 8.2% increase. So I don't think that's the reason why our numbers show that. I just don't know where the people are coming from. Talk a lot about UND's enrollment, record numbers. It's just back to where it was in 2012 and 2013. And we don't talk about the fact that now, post-COVID, over a third of students are remote. So we don't have those people necessarily here. Talk a lot about future taxes, how it's going to be so great at year 6, or with a lot of them at year 21. What if CK specifically, if they're doing this income-based housing, what if they take it a step further and have it more income-based, and then they sell it to Grand Forks Housing Authority? Not that that would be a bad thing, but we're not going to have taxes then after the period, just like we might not have taxes on Memorial Village if they sold to UND at year 21. Then I want to get into the competition piece. This is what it says on their application for CK. The competition would be with other mixed market rate and HIF funded apartment projects in Grand Forks. The domain, the only difference is other market rate apartment projects in Grand Forks. It doesn't have that HIF aspect. But then with both of them, they talk about what equipment and machinery are going to be in the facility. They have to list that specifically. And they have the residential units will contain standard appliances, including refrigerators, dishwashers, ranges, washers, and dryers. The amenity areas will also have these same appliances for resident usage. Now, while I assume that CK isn't going to have anything beyond that, it's probably right. I doubt they're putting in a golf simulator or bowling lanes or a pickleball court. But if that's the case, why can't you ask them to write that into the agreement? The reason why I don't believe it, and I want it in writing, is because they have that exact same thing on the domain. And I know their drawings show golf simulators, pickleball courts, bowling lanes, everything. You guys have the authority to put this in the document, so you should put it in every single one if you're going to approve these for housing. And like I've talked about in the past, it is absolutely competition. I've been greatly impacted. I've talked to a lot of apartment owners now, and they also are not happy about it. They see that they'll be impacted. You've had Bob Calgar at multiple meetings explaining to you, and he's been in the business a long time. He's dealing with some health stuff, so that's why he hasn't been in the meetings in person. I want to hit on just publicly, I emailed you, but I want to make sure the rest of you saw my remarks about the golf simulator aspect. You brought up the Memorial Village, Mr. Sandy, and the schedule for the simulators. But if you looked at my schedule for my golf simulators on a Monday in February when it's prime time, you would think I'm going out of business. People don't schedule for that in advance. So it would certainly be the case with Memorial Village's golf simulators, the 3 that they have. But also you picked the week just before spring break. The kids are going to be leaving town. It wasn't going to be a busy week for them, so it was a very poor example. These golf simulators have, in these apartment buildings, Memorial Village, they have impacted my business significantly. But again, I'm not here just for mine. I'm here for all these other small business owners that have apartment complexes. There's a lot of folks, like I said, they have maybe one duplex, maybe a fourplex. They put their hard-earned money into it to invest and put it to work, but now they're going to be impacted by these. I think Sean mentioned, I had just gotten this data, I'd found this too. We've added about 1,000 units through these tax incentivized complexes, or we would if these 2 tonight. And that's in an arena of about 11,000 units in town, like I had said. I think it's in the Baker Tilly rate or analysis for both of them, but they talk a lot about cap rates when you have investment properties. And Sean mentioned it. Those are just going to go down when you have excess vacancy. They're not going to be able to sell it. The property values are going to go down, and the total benefit to the community for net tax gain is going to go down. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the transparency and ownership. And I want to thank you on the record for having the humility to state that, yes, it is only the registered agent that shows up on the Secretary of State. The reason why I brought that up wasn't to call you out, and I think you know that. It's to call out the fact that we have an attorney over here who didn't call it out. Our attorney, who's getting, I think, about 10 grand a month, should be looking out for you guys and correct you. If you say something up here that's wrong, the majority of the public watching this thinks you guys are right. So if they hear something, it should be corrected. And it shouldn't be joked about when someone has the humility to do that. So I appreciate that. And I just want to close with the fact that, again, with it being National Small Business Week, just keep that in mind of what you're doing to not just my business, but all the small business owners in town that this will impact. And I'll probably be up in a few minutes, but I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Krausnick. Any others on item 3.1? Anybody else to speak on item 3.1? All right, we'll close the public hearing portion and open up to council for comments, motions. Anything you'd like to add?
I have a question.
Ms. Berg, please.
Is there a way where if we were to approve a pilot that the other taxing entities can still receive their share of taxes and only apply to the city?
Mr. Gossett.
Yes, I've actually done the research on that. When there was, it was several years ago, where there was I think either the school district or the county, I can't remember which one, was contemplating not going forward with the pilot at the time. But it still can apply to the city's portion with respect. So, for example, if the city's property tax is 25% of the total, that pilot would apply to that 25%, and the rest would they'd pay the full freight with respect to the county and school district and other property taxing entities.
And then Mr. Krafsnick had mentioned that the report went from 9 affordable units to 26. Can you help me understand what happened there?
Mr. Phelan, I know you had a comment on that, so please.
Sure. Mayor Buczynski and Councilmember Burke. The original report from Baker Tilly, the 9 were the units that were the most rent restricted. And I asked that Baker Tilly put in the report all the units that had some rent restrictions, which was the number of 26. 9 is the most restrictive. So that was the edit. So we could be clear that more than half of those have rent restrictions on the units. Similar to what you see down at, we'll call it the Hugo's development or Pure development. That's about 50-50 with rent restricted versus market. So I just wanted you to know that 26 were rent restricted. The rest are market rate units at that location. And to one of the citizens that came up, it would be important to know that what units are rent restricted and what are just truly market.
Are any other comments from council? President Sandy.
I think nobody likes the idea of property tax incentives. The general public doesn't particularly have much stomach for them. The other taxing entities don't either. For that matter, I don't really either. It's unfortunate, though, that there isn't a line of people with bags of money wanting to invest in our community. There just isn't. And we're fortunate that Grand Forks is such a good community that some people want to invest, but we don't have the Doug Burgums building 17-story buildings in our downtown. We don't have oil money building buildings in Minot and Bismarck. And to that end, by the way, Bismarck, Fargo, West Fargo, Minot all use pilots to incentivize, even though they have millions and billionaires, they still use pilots to incentivize multifamily construction in their communities. I for one, am cautiously optimistic that the economics of building these facilities changes, and we see fewer people coming and looking for tax incentives. In the meantime, we do have whatever people want to use for the vacancy rate. Our vacancy rate is lower than what is a healthy vacancy rate, I believe, and we have to continue to grow. We have to continue to provide homes of all types and sizes and costs for people that live in our community and want to change their housing, or people that we're trying to attract to come to Grand Forks and work. I think ultimately a 5-year property tax abatement is no different than the 5-year tax abatement that we give for remodeling exemptions. I think it's a fair and reasonable incentive to help attract dollars to get invested in our community. Again, I'm hoping that we can get beyond this, but we are in the economics that we are today. So, Mayor, I'll move approval.
Got a motion to approve from President Sandy. Do we have a second? A second from Ms. Lunsky. Further comment? Mr. Weigel.
Mr. Gosted, I think you've covered this before, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have the ability to put in in our agreement that President Sandy's building the building and is receiving this tax incentive, that he must maintain ownership for X amount of years after the pilot runs out. Is that correct?
You can put in any type of provision you want into these agreements. So yes.
What, Mr. Gossett, what protections do we have now? I mean, there's not, I can't think of an example in the state other than I think the Catholic Church purchased a property near NDSU's campus, which 6 to 8, maybe it was more, but small unit. Is there any other example? I mean, for example, Memorial Village was state-owned land. It was paying zero tax dollars. We still served it from fire. We still served it from plowing around it. We had expenses there, but received no revenue. This project here, Memorial Village 1 or 2, either one, is now paying some taxes. Why would UND have a third party build it and pay some taxes when they could just build it themselves and pay no taxes? Why would they buy it later when they could just do it now? Now, there's a loaded question, but maybe just talk, is there other examples of them being purchased afterwards? Because obviously we want to build the tax pie so that we have money, we have revenue coming in now, more revenue than we had prior. Allow projects to happen that wouldn't have happened. So it's growing our revenue, which spreads out the burden across the city. Rather than having less people pay, we have more that are paying something. In the future, we have a much more, a larger payment helping spread that pie even further. Well, you had some protections. We had this conversation that are in there as far as the representations made currently. So it's a long-winded question, but you think you get the gist of it.
Yeah. Right now, what we've got embedded within our agreement is coming out of the statute that if what is been the reasonable expectations of the representations that have been made by the developers are not what the council perceive the development to be, that can be an event of default, and there are remedies under that. It's like any other contract provision, right? You're going to have to pursue and enforce that, and you're going to have to pursue and enforce whatever collection might be forthcoming. It's no different than any other contract that you've got, but they do have some provisions in there. Now, with respect to and I think we talked about this before, with respect to the purchase of the facility down in Fargo, the fact that the Catholic Church may have bought it, I'm not, and I don't know the particulars of that, but that doesn't automatically equate to it being exempt from property taxation. They'd have to fit within one of the property tax exemption provisions of the statute. And the fact that a church owns certain property doesn't automatically equate to it being exempt from property taxation.
Okay. Any further, Mr. President, Vice President Weigel?
Mayor, I asked Mr. Sandy if he'd be willing to amend his motion and include that in the development agreement that ownership must be maintained for 5 years after the pilot expires.
Do you want to have ownership or must remain? How do you want to,
I should say.
Taxable,
Yep.
yeah. Because I mean, it could change hands after that, and as long as it's still taxable, that would be what we're
That would
looking
be
for.
my.
Do you want it to be 5 years, or do you want it to match the term of the pilot agreement? So if it's 20, it's got to be 20.
Well, I think, are we talking about this specific one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would just 5 years after.
Yeah, I would certainly welcome that amendment. I'll amend my motion to include that.
We accept that amendment. So that would be, we got an amendment, and the second has agreed. I think that'd be language you could write into the development agreement. You understand the intentions of the council.
I certainly do.
All right. Ms. Osowski, please.
That was a great idea, Mr. Weigel, but I still do not feel that apartments qualify for these types of tax incentives. And so I still will be voting no on both of these today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Ms. Berg.
I'm interested in exploring to see if the developers are able to make it work if they just receive the city funds and not take those finances away from the other taxing entities.
All right, thank you. Are you wanting that to be decided to this evening?
Well, if we just vote on this as is, we wouldn't be able to change it. And
No, not on this item. You're eliminating probably the value of that incentive to 27% of its incentive. We're only 26.8% of the tax pie. It's been going down quite significantly. But Mr. Tweeden, you're here to answer that question. If you could turn the mic on, please. Mr. Phelan, could you get the mic on for him? Thank you.
Good evening, Craig Tweeten, 837 Shady Ridge Court, Grand Forks. So with your suggestion on the proposal here, I would just say that suggestion is that sometimes people will sell the building though to a group that still pays taxes. So I would just say, so it can't be sold to a company or to another group that won't pay taxes in that time. Is that fair enough?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Just be sure. I just want to be sure get that corrected.
Okay. And then to the second point from Mrs. Berg, if Mrs. Berg, either one, Ms. Berg, we're in a business setting. Tricia, yeah. Can the project move forward if you only had the city's portion, or is it going to require the participation from the other tax entities?
It probably wouldn't.
Okay. Mr. Gosta, did you have a comment?
I do. With the 5-year to assure with respect to transfers of title, because I don't watch the title transfers. I don't think this council watches the title transfers on a daily basis. We're going to have to record something to provide notice that the sale can, so it shows up in the chain of title for that 5-year period of time.
So it'd come up in a title search. If we only had an attorney that could draft such a document, we'd be in good shape. All right.
Great.
All right.
I think Mayor Bochansky, I think on this particular project, I think the fact that the developer's gone out and gotten housing incentive funds for this project for more than half the units, I think provides that more affordable housing units. They have the state's, allotted them to this project. So I think at this time to discuss further how we could change this, I think I would recommend we move forward with this because there's a lot of other funding that's coming to this project to make it happen. And in this case, one of the questions is why are we doing 5 years? Because we do understand as an administration, we want to keep these within 5 years. And essentially after 5 years, they have to have permanent financing and all the risk is on them. So it's not that these projects may or may not use it, but we're shifting the risk for those that are investing in these projects to them after 5 years. And they have to hope that in that time horizon, that they can make it happen. And so that's why we're going within 5 years, is we're shifting the risk to the developer. It's true that we have 3 or 4 developers. Thank goodness we have 3 or 4 developers. We shouldn't scorn people that are willing to invest in our community. If we had 8 developers, that'd even be better. And so I think in that case, I think the other question that's come up, we do a lot for single family. We've maxed out all of our incentives. In fact, we've gone beyond what the state allows with a 2-year builder, 100% exemption. The homeowner gets 2 years, that's 4 years, so that we've maxed that out. We've even gone to special assessment deferrals in residential areas. We've reduced our bond overhead for special assessments. We've increased our cost shares for infrastructure, water, sewer, storm, street in residential developments. We've done a lot. I know in all of these projects, I'm going to say it one more time, to our other taxing entities, it's only additional revenue, it's 0 expense.
I think Ms. Lazur, I just wanted to check that 2-year exemption is $150,000, right, for builder and for new homes. Yeah, for 2 years, 2 years builder, 2 years new resident. Yeah, all right.
And one more thing, as Mr. Sandy had said, you guys approve periodically 5 years, 100% on remodeling exemptions and you change. It used to be 100%, 5 years on residential. Now it's on commercial also. You approve all of those without any analysis. So we are doing as much as we can in all forms and fashion to drive the revenue and the value of this community. Grand Forks is 75% of the county mill. And it likely, if you buy a check to 10 years from now, it'll likely be more than 75% because we're trying to grow this region and we're trying to grow the county. And a lot of it's on our shoulders. A lot of the housing in this community and region is coming from the city of Grand Forks. The state of North Dakota isn't going to provide funding other than some housing incentive funds, which are very competitive. But without Grand Forks building housing, there's not a whole lot of housing being built in our area.
President Sandy.
I think it's important to point out as well, Ms. Leak did mention that housing is expensive and but we want single families to own their homes. No one's going to argue that. Housing in Grand Forks is expensive for a lot of reasons. The infrastructure costs are more here than any other place in the state or most of Minnesota. The city is so flat that we have to pump all of our water, all of our sewage. We have many more lift stations per capita than any other city in the state of North Dakota, which drives costs of housing. And unless and until we build something, there's nothing keeping price controls down. So people complain about the fact that housing is expensive, yet they don't want us to help incentivize people to build. It's a catch-22 that we're put in every time we have this discussion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, President Sandy. Any further discussion from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-1 with Osowski dissenting.
3.2, public hearing on application for property tax incentive, payment in lieu of tax for RTV MPS LLC, the domain.
Thank you. We'll open up the public hearing portion for item 3.2. Anyone here to speak on item 3.2, please step up to the microphone. Just click make sure that red button's on. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about the hoodie tonight, guys. It's a work from home thing. Things get a little lax. So yeah, I've come here tonight and I thank you for the time to speak against the pilot incentive on the domain. About a year ago, we were talking about you installing a mailbox, but about a year ago, residents from my neighborhood came before you regarding the domain project. At that time, we were told, we were talking about a zoning change, allowing a larger and taller development. Despite clear concerns from residents that change was passed, and now we're back again. And the request has changed, but the pattern hasn't. First, the rules were adjusted to allow a bigger project than what zoning allowed. Now we're being asked to adjust the tax structure to make the same project work financially. At some point, we have to ask a simple question. What do our rules actually mean if they can be changed at every stage of the process? Because this is not an exception to the rule. This is a clear pattern. When we hear the project needs a tax break, we should recognize what that means. This is an expectation. It's not unusual. And at some point, incentives stop being incentives and start becoming expectations. This project won't exist in a vacuum. It will compete directly with existing local businesses that are paying full property taxes. So what we are effectively doing is asking existing businesses and residents to subsidize their own competition. That's not a level playing field. That's government choosing who gets an advantage. You might say to me that this isn't a subsidy because the city isn't paying out any cash. But choosing to collect less revenue is still a policy decision with real impacts. The needs for city, school, county, and park services don't disappear. So the question is, who is covering the difference while the pilot is in place? I'm not opposed to development. Growth is important, but growth should not require us to give away our tax base in order to make projects viable. If a project only works with public subsidy, then it's fair to ask whether the risk is being shifted from the developer onto the public. If we continue down this path, where incentives are expected, rules are flexible, and each project negotiates its own terms, we shouldn't be surprised when every future developer asks for the same deal, because we've set that precedent right here. So this is not just about this project, it's about the cumulative effect of these decisions over time. What I'm asking from you all tonight, and what didn't happen a year ago at planning and zoning or in front of council, but I have a simple request. Please have a thoughtful transparent discussion before making this decision. What is the clear public benefit of the domain? What is the cost in foregone tax revenue? Would this project truly not happen without the incentive? And how do you justify this incentive to businesses already paying full taxes? If those questions can't be clearly answered, I would urge you to deny this request. Grand Forks is a strong community. We do not need to give Grand Forks away in order to see it grow. And just one other comment I almost don't even dare say your name after, but
Miss Berg.
Miss Berg, I'll go with that. Thank you. It was a great point. We don't tie the hands of the schools and the county and the parks, especially the school board. We can talk all day whether they manage well or mismanage, and everybody's going to have their own opinion. But that was a great point. City, if that's what you need to do, do it, but leave them out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on item 3.2? Mr. Beclair, please.
Yeah, can I have a clarification question? Councilmember Berg, excellent question about. Thank you. Councilmember Berg, excellent question about the taxes from the county, the park district, as well as the school. Can that be retroactive? Does anybody own do they have the right to come back? I didn't realize that was an option. Could you clarify? Would you like to know the answer to that question, Councilmember Berg? If you ask the question, he has to answer. When I ask the question, obviously he does not.
Anything
The
further,
simple
Mr.
question is,
Beclair?
can it be retroactive?
Anything further, Mr. Beclair?
A simple question, I'll send it there. So the other thing, does everybody think this is a pretty thorough analysis of Baker Tilly? Feel pretty good about it? Mr. Scharf, what key thing is missing from this? Anybody invest in something and want to know the internal rate of return? The internal rate of return is not in this, what the developer's receiving. I find that very interesting. Why wouldn't you put the internal rate of return in there? If it's a private business, absolutely. You don't have a right to know. But when you're at the public trough asking for hundreds and thousands of millions, we have a right to know what the developer's making, don't we? The citizens, taxpayers. Another reason why I would not sign off on that. Councilmember Berg, you asked a very good question. Are you familiar with pro forma financials? Balance sheet, cash flow, income statement. They're standard financial documents. Baker Tilly obviously has to have them to do their financial analysis, calculate internal rate of return. For $45 to $95, you can go online and buy them. I requested a FOIA request from the city because I like to run my own numbers. I was told it basically was not my business. So how can you be financially responsible as a council when you don't know the same numbers the investors know and the bank knows? There's only one set of documents. I work in ethanol project development, $100 to $150 million. We hired a third party accounting firm, Christensen Associates, if you'd like to fact check me, $20,000 report, balance sheet income and cash flow statements are all linked together. You change one variable, the whole thing changes over the course of 10 years. That's what should be done here. The fact that it isn't, I consider that negligence, gross negligence. You know, Mayor Brzezinski, you took a cheap shot at me about writing the check for $45,000, $50,000. What would happen if you did a proper analysis for Memorial Village 1 and 2, and you didn't need to give them 17, 18 years? Shave 1 year off of that, right? It's an $84 million project. What's the commercial tax rate? 1.75? That's over $1 million. Think you can feed some hungry people in Grand Forks? 4 out of 10 children goes hungry. We're not talking about chump change here, are we? I'll pay for the analysis. Another thing why I wouldn't sign off on the agreement, approve it tonight, is you don't follow, when North Dakota issues a pilot, they have a TVC clause. Are you familiar with the TVC clause? Trust, verify, and there's consequences. Mr. Phelan, we're also both Ronald Reagan's fans. Trust but verify, right, with the SALT agreement with Gorbachev. There's also consequences if you didn't follow through. There's no consequences for a developer for whatever numbers they throw at Baker Tilly. None at all. There's more consequences to getting a parking ticket in Grand Forks. I recently received a parking ticket in Grand Forks. It's $40, right? Paid the ticket. Guess what happens if you don't pay enough of them? They put you in jail. I know someone who's no longer a resident of Grand Forks that had enough unpaid parking tickets, got thrown in jail. Here you can come up hundreds, millions of dollars, whatever you like. There's no consequences to it. There should be. The state of North Dakota does it. Every federal government contract has it. The fact it's not in the city's development agreement amazes me. Again, the market impact study. Your actions here, it's not a small number. I think we're at a course of $50 million of foregone property taxes. What impact does that have to existing apartment owners? What impact does that have to the homeowners? Somebody's got to make up for that tax revenue. You guys aren't going to spend less. It's going to fall on the homeowners. The higher that taxes, does that make home more affordable or less affordable? Again, your impact study will do that. Finally, people have mentioned about this. I totally agree. I'm a very private person. I think people's private business should be private business. But when you come and ask for hundreds and thousands of $1 million, I think that's public money. The public should know not only who the managing partner is, but all the accredited investors. My guess is they're accredited investors. For those of you not familiar with it, accredited investors, roughly somebody has a net worth of $1 million or more, and works $200,000 a year. Right? These people understand what's going on here. You know why people want to invest in new apartment buildings versus existing apartment buildings? Basically, it's high net worth, high income individuals that can move ordinary income due to depreciation. Was it 27.5 years in a new apartment building? Depreciate the apartment building, take the tax losses against it. Eventually, they sell the apartment building off and they receive K1s for long-term capital gains. Ask me how I know this. I'm a shareholder in Golden Growers, Pro Gold. Exact same thing there. I didn't want to sell the building, the business, it was sold. So that's my comments there. If someone that comes as new information surprise to you, please contact me. Right, a lot of good people in Grand Forks. That gentleman, his heart's in the right place. So is his actions. There's a need to follow that for the best interest of Grand Forks. There's people in the community that are hurting. They're hungry, 4 out of 10 children. We got developers in this community that they're no doubt there's millionaires. I commend them. Do they need to squeeze every last dollar out of the community? I don't think so. It's your responsibility to make sure all residents are taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. Beclaire. Anybody else on item 3.2, please step forward. Mr. Krausnick, please.
Thank you again. I only had a few notes, but I've got more notes from the discussion. We'll see if I can read it though. My girlfriend can never read my handwriting. Everything from the first one holds true. But if some of you had in the back of your mind that the last one maybe had more of an income-based factor than it did, or if that influenced your decision, hopefully on this one, you go the other route. It's completely market rate. For that Baker Tilly report, the only real question I have in there is they talk about the commercial space, and we have 10,000 square feet of commercial space that's going to be available in there. They list the projected, it's kind of like the vacancy from the other one. They list in this one, though, that the commercial per square foot rate is going to be $15. I don't know if any of you have leased commercial space. Maybe some of you have, but there's no way they're going to list that space on the south end of town for $15. You'd have a lot of business owners like myself who would be further south probably if that was the case. You can look at a new project they have by the Grand Cities Mall. They got it listed at 22. Memorial Village, I think they have listed at 25. Some places down in the south end are in 30s. So these numbers, yeah, Baker Tilly's probably looking at it and looking at averages everywhere, but that's not the Grand Forks market. So they're underestimating by hundreds of thousands of dollars and what that commercial space should bring in for them. Then I want to point out, I've sent this to all of you guys. I posted it online and a lot of people have seen it. This is the actual packet that I got from the neighborhood meeting. I live in that neighborhood. It's not what's posted online now. And I understand why. Why would you want to show that you're going to have 2 golf simulators, 4 bowling lanes, an indoor pickleball court, an indoor basketball court, an indoor fitness center, 2 outdoor pickleball courts, an outdoor putting green, which I assume is a nice artificial turf one, which costs 70 to 100 grand, 50 grand at the minimum. It's right on here. It's page 4. And I know you all have a picture because I sent it to you. The tax incentive they're asking for is a 5-year, 90%. That equates to almost $2 million in foregone taxes for the 5 years. If you take all that equipment for those amenities, all that space where they could lease out at 22 to 26 a square foot, all the maintenance they're going to need for that, they would save way less than $2 million. And in the process, they wouldn't be competing with me. And again, those 2 golf simulators will compete. Dakota Commercial would have 5 simulators in town in their apartment complexes. I have 8 right now. It took me a long time to get up to even 4. So it's a big deal. And not just for me, but Red Ray Lanes, Shoot 360, Play It, Anytime Fitness, Planet Fitness, every gym in town. It's just not fair. So the other pieces that I wrote down here, keep talking about, a couple of you just talked about, there are zero expenses for this development. And we're just going to disagree, but I want to say it publicly. There are more costs. When you patrol a lot that is vacant versus patrolling a lot, maybe Mr. Way, well, I don't know if you look into the finances side of it, but there's more work to be done at a 150 unit apartment complex for policemen, for firefighters, than there is for an empty lot. If we're that overstaffed in those departments, then we're overpaying as taxpayers. It just doesn't make sense. There's going to be 150 units. People are flushing toilets. The lift stations we were talking about before, the sewer system, the roads, they're going to be stressed more. So there is more expense. And it just doesn't add up when you keep saying that. So the rest of us, taxpayers, are burdened with that. I'm going to go all over the place here because my notes are sloppy. I talked about this at another meeting, but you brought up the remodeling credit. And I brought up a very specific example, which I think is more than enough. My old landlord, the Browns, they're doing an awesome remodel. I just saw it the other day downtown by Bonzer's, a boutique hotel. And they put in millions of dollars into that. They applied for the remodel exemption. They're going to save, I think, like $10,000. That's nothing to them. And I didn't object to that at all. And they're going to have a golf simulator in there. But you're talking about the domain. This is $2 million. And they're not rehabbing an old property. They're doing a brand new greenfield development. And I think CK is around 600,000. You talk about, multiple of you talk about how we're privileged. We should be thanking these developers. I have zero issue with the developers. I know a lot of them. I know a lot of the real estate agents that work with them. I have no problem if they make millions of dollars. It's awesome. But we don't need to give them an advantage over others. And when you say we need to thank them for investing in the community, why is their investment that much better than my investment, or Red Ray Lane's investment, or Bob Calger's investment, or numerous of my customers who own 2plexes and 4plexes? It's not the same dollar amount, but we also have invested in this community, and it's not fair. What else we got here? The part about, you touched on Minot, I think Bismarck, maybe you said, Bismarck's actually gotten it more under control, but Fargo for sure and Minot. I've done requests on those to find out what properties have gotten tax incentives as well. And you're correct, they've been doing some of the same stuff. The thing is that doesn't make it legal. You're going off of a legal opinion of our city attorney, but I've asked multiple times for you guys to go to the attorney general. I know you're not going to. I think we'll have somebody going to them very shortly. But no one's challenged it in the courts yet. So we don't have a North Dakota Supreme Court decision. We don't have an AG opinion. All we have, to my knowledge, is a PowerPoint presentation that Mr. Gosta put together, but we don't have an actual formal legal opinion that I've ever seen. I've talked about North Dakota Century Code here numerous times. Harry asked me before the meeting, hey, have you ever brought this up to them? I said, I sure have. Maybe he gave you a different perspective, but I've got documents off the state tax commissioner's website that kind of put it in layman's terms for people versus the actual Century Code. And that also shows that we shouldn't be doing this. I'm not going to give you the definition of primary sector again, because Harry did that. I'll give you the definition of project because I know Mr. Gosted explains it this way. Project means any revenue producing enterprise or combination of two or more of these enterprises or an expansion to an existing business. So he says apartment complexes qualify. But what he doesn't talk about is the part in the state site that talks about qualified project. Well, the qualified project aspect is the primary sector aspect. You can go on another section that I have here. You do the drop down tab for qualifications, and it says projects must be a newer expanding primary sector business. And then it talks about what primary sector is. Again, this isn't the actual legal document, but it's explaining what that is. But why not have the courage to go to the Attorney General? No offense to Mr. Gostead and his experience, but I believe the AG probably has more experience, and let him opine if you're so confident that this is legal. Maybe we can take a precedent for the entire state if no one's done that yet. The last thing I think is remedies. So you're talking about adding on this provision where if the property is sold, it's going to be taxed for 5 more years. And you can have penalties, or I forget the terminology used. But how do you hold an LLC accountable when they can just dissolve right away? So if the LLC of CK Commercial sells to Grand Forks Housing Authority in 5 years, CK Commercial is dissolved with the state, where's the liability lie? I would like to know that. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't believe you'd be able to hold them accountable if it is sold. I think that's it, but the main aspect of this one is there is no income-based aspect. It's market rate with extremely lavish amenities that compete with me and numerous people in town. And at some point, you are going to have to say no. So maybe this is the one. I don't come here just to waste my time, so I actually do hold out hope that maybe someone will join. Or maybe she's not even going to vote. Maybe someone will join Ms. Oskowski in this vote. I'm going to keep coming. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krausnick. Anybody else on item 3.2? Just wait a few more moments. Anyone to speak on item 3.2? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and I'll open up to council for motions, questions, comments. President Sandy.
Move approval, same motion as 3.1.
President Sandy motions, Walensky seconds. Any further discussion for council members?
So with
the 5 years.
And you feel comfortable getting the development agreement or getting working with a developer, having that, in your opinion, needs to be recorded at the county?
It's the only way. That's the way we can track it. It's the way that if somebody wants to buy, they know that it's not an encumbrance, but there's a title issue with respect to their purchase.
And I did mean that when I said that earlier, if we only knew, I did mean that you could handle that. I believe you're an adjunct professor in that exact category at UND, despite practicing that personally.
That's correct. And I work for the Attorney General's office periodically too.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gosted. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
3.3, determination of protest for project 9064, District 800, paving and streetlights for 27th Avenue North, North 36th Street to North Washington. No protests have been received.
All right, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone here to speak on item 3.3, please step forward to the mic. Anyone here for item 3.3? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion and open up to council.
Approval.
Motion approved from Sandy, second from Mr. Veen. I think I saw the finger up. Yeah, perfect. All right. Any further discussion? Item 3.3. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. That's it for item 3. We'll move on to item 4, citizen comments. Any comments this evening, Ms. Lundmark?
I believe it was 5 electronic comments that were received today that are posted online for everyone's reference.
Okay.
Some of them were also emailed to all of you this afternoon. And I have 5 in person. I'm just going to kind of go in item order that they were referencing what they wanted to speak to. So Kevin Kuntz. I think he may
He
have
may have been on the,
left, so.
yeah.
So then next I would have Andrew Krause. And he was going to speak on item 5.9 and general comments.
All right. All right, Mr. Krusty, this period will have a 3-minute timer, so just keep aware. We got to follow the policy.
Yep.
And we'll start it right now, please.
Let her rip. All right. It'll be really quick. I had 2 routes. I thought maybe I'd come up here and say thanks. That's not what I'm going to do then. I do want to know, I emailed you guys a few weeks back. Miss Berg's the only one who replied to me. Miss Olsowski doesn't have to because I know she's a no. But I still do not know from any of you what it will take for you to say no. I think I and other citizens deserve that. So if you're going to say we don't have a healthy vacancy, what number do you need and where do we get that from? If you guys say we need housing, like we need to know what information you need. Where do we need to get to? You can't keep doing this and not having answers to those questions that I think are very simple and very direct. And I only keep asking it because I don't get an answer. What will it take? I mean, is it an AG opinion from someone else to request that? Or is it private legal action to file a lawsuit with the city of Grand Forks? I mean, what's going to stop it, or what information do you need to change your mind? And lastly, again, I talked about it before, but ownership matters. So on either of these projects now, we're not going to know who owns it. I know that one of you has ownership in Epic, in Beacon. And if one of you does, how do we know that others don't? How do we know that you don't have ownership in other projects that have gotten incentives or are going to apply for incentives? I hope that none of you do, but we hope nothing is nefarious going on. But we should have that transparency. You guys should, and all of us citizens should know every single K1 holder who has a share in the company. We should know that. If you want tax money, you should know that. I don't share my finances with people because I don't have any incentives. But if I'm going to ask for something, I do have to share that. I had to get a loan initially for my business. I had to share everything. These developers should have to do that too. And if there's nothing wrong going on, then there should be no issue. So I think you guys should add that to these incentives going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Krosnick. Ms. Lundmark?
Almaz Tegno, and I probably just said your name totally wrong.
Yeah, could you pronounce that for us so we can say it correctly as well?
Almaz Tegnu.
Tegnu. All right.
And
And
I
then,
don't get offended if you mess it up. It's okay.
then just so you know, on the citizen comments, we got a 3-minute period, so there'll be a timer on the side. So
I'll be sure. It was just with the event center commission. I don't think that it's a good idea to put that on you guys. You guys already have enough on your plate as it is, and also that that the meetings would then get pooled with the city council meetings, which then inundates you guys, and the agenda doesn't provide due diligence for all of the agenda items. And also, again, we're consolidating power to few people instead of keeping it where it was with public and people being able to be elected for the board. So I hope that you guys push back against that one and don't move forward with the event center, and you guys taking more responsibility as well. Thank you.
thank you.
Irene Halberter.
Ms. Halberter, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Irene Halbritter, and I serve as the Vice Chair of the Alara Center Commission. No, I stand before you tonight not to protect a title, but to protect what I believe it is a vital bridge between our government or professional management team and the taxpayers we all serve. My understanding is that there's a proposal to dissolve this commission and that the same rests in two arguments, efficiency and redundancy. However, to view the commission as extra work or an extra layer is to misunderstand its fundamental purpose as a specialized oversight body. The City Council already manages a vast array of municipal concerns from the water or the security of the streets and the growth of an economy. You simply do not have the time to dive into the granular reports of marketing, finance, operations, partnerships, conference sales, event management, or food and beverage. The Commission provides the time you don't have. And our oversight is not only limited to a single monthly session, it is an ongoing process through which we review the data, the documents, and in addition to that, we inquire about all the necessary details and ensure that every initiative is responsive to taxpayers. We are not a hurdle. We serve as a professional filter, ensuring that by the time a project reaches you, it has been poked, prodded, and perfected. And more importantly, beyond efficiency, is the matter of public trust. The Commission is the taxpayer's eyes. Now our meetings are televised. The curtain has been pulled back. Whenever a resident has a concern or has heard a rumor such as the LRS is running at a loss, they no longer have to wonder. They can directly tune in and see how the tax dollars have been paid to work. They can see how success is measured by the economic and community benefit that our events provide, as well as the rigorous, careful, and experienced work that runs behind these events. If you dissolve this commission, you're closing that window of transparency for the residents of Grand Forks. Further, the commission is built on resident input. We're composed of members from various professional backgrounds who serve without compensation. We offer an additional set of expert eyes who is independent from both the daily operations of the LRS Center as well as the political pressures of the council. Regardless of your decision tonight, the LRS will continue to be managed by a very competent and excellent team directed by Anna Rosberg. However, I believe the best of the management teams could beneficiate from the oversight of a dedicated board of citizens. If you dissolve this commission, you're just not saving time. You're removing the unpaid residents who volunteer their professional judgment to protect the public interest. Most dangerously, you're telling the citizens of Grand Forks that they no longer need to see how the tax dollars are being spent behind the curtain. The commission was served for a purpose, and I quote, in all respects for the public benefit of the people of Grand Forks. If you dissolve it, you're not just cutting a meeting, you're cutting out this resident seat at the table. You're closing a door that belongs to the taxpayers. Yeah, I urge you to maintain this bridge, to not dim the light on public oversight, and to not trade transparency for convenience. Let's keep this curtain up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Halbritter. Ms. Lundmark?
Dennis Denal.
Mr. Denault, please.
Yes, sir. Thanks for letting me speak, Council. And the nature of the issue here is safety. That printing shop should have been, in my opinion, condemned 30 years ago. It had at least 12 major structural brick mortar cracks in it. And I'm telling you, this is crazy. It should be, I mean, it is so dangerous. It should definitely be knocked over. Back on April 6th, on the west side, the bricks came down. There was a pretty good pile of bricks that came down. And if there was a kid walking or riding a bike, it would have killed the kid, all the bricks. I mean, there was an avalanche. On the 16th, on the east side, another pile of bricks came down. But that was on their own property. But every square inch on the west side of that building, that's city property. And if anybody gets hurt, the city's going to get sued. It'll be a miracle if somebody doesn't get killed. I don't know why the city inspector's dragging his feet on this. Numerous concerned citizens have talked to me about this. How come it ain't knocked down? I said, hey, I'm not the inspector. And I'm sure over 30 years ago when I came back to town here, the old saying was, the Grand Forks inspectors are paid off. And this came right from contractors, Brandon. So, I mean, it's a safety hazard, and I just wish this. I just wish you guys could get this thing knocked over. I mean, it's been dragging on long enough, and I hate to see anybody get hurt or killed. And it should have been barricaded right off the start. But so please, I wish you would, everybody, council, inspectors, let's get this unsafe, dangerous building knocked over. A backhoe could do it in about 2 hours because there's absolutely no brick mortar supporting those bricks. I mean, it's, if we get some high winds, those walls are coming down. So, thanks, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Denault.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lundmark. We'll move on to item 5, action items. I've got 5.9 and 5.10 to pull for further discussion, and then council members, any further items that you'd like to discuss? 5.2. Any others, Mr. President Sandy?
5.8, please.
5.8. Any others? All right, so we'll look to approve items 5.1, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from Berg. Do I have a second? Second from Friedolfs. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So, Ms. Storsa, we got item 5.2, 5.8, 5.9, and 5.10.
Starting with 5.2, city engineer appointment.
All right.
Mayor, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Christian Danielson. I think the selection was an excellent selection, and I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. My concern, of course, is the at-will employment. I'm much in favor of the classified employment and the potential issues with severance package. So I just need to have that on the floor, and I'm ready to vote.
Sounds good. Any further comments? Got a motion to approve from Sandy, second from Mr. Friedolfs. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1 with Veen dissenting. And Mr. Veen, once again, we do have an ordinance that requires that. So unless we're going to change that ordinance, we cannot change how we hire our department heads. And Mr. Danielson was more than happy to accept the contract from my conversations with him. So I can understand your stance, but realize unless we're going to change
I
the
won't
ordinance,
argue
they're
that
gonna
right
come
now.
way.
We could, though.
Yeah, sounds good. Congratulations, Mr. Danielson. We're looking forward to, well, not just May 18th. We look forward to you every day. So thanks for being here.
5.8, water customer portal.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, President Sandy, you got a comment?
Yeah,
please?
Mrs. Sowski did a fair amount of research. I didn't realize that for a few $100s, you can get a water meter installed at your personal property, a smart water meter. Mr. Hanson, are you familiar with those smart water meters that you can have installed personally?
Same as you. I mean, I was aware of them before there was options out there. I did look at the ones that Ms. Councilwoman Osowski sent, and I think for some users they would work. I guess I didn't look into it enough to see how reliable or accurate they are, but they seem to do roughly the same thing.
Sure, but do you think that they would have any negative effect on our water meters? If somebody put one in line with our meter, is that going to be an issue?
Of the three that she sent, the one was a little concerning, the one that's strapped right onto the meter, but the ones that hook onto the pipe upstream or downstream of the meter shouldn't have an effect.
No problems, right? Okay, so I guess personally, $70,000 seems to be a significant amount of money annually for what is likely a small group of people that would be utilizing the water portal. I'm not saying we shouldn't never do this. I'm just not sure right now is the time. Just because the portal became available, I don't know. I would think that over time the prices may come down. And so I, for one, am just not ready to support spending that kind of money every year to provide a portal for a small number of people to see how much water they're using daily. Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Ms. Lunsky, and then we'll go to Mr. Friedels.
So I was all for this because you know that terrible feeling when you step into your basement and your sock is wet? And I thought maybe this could help anyone prevent that. And I realize that's not going to work. And after speaking to Mr. Sandy yesterday, I just assumed everyone would want this. And so I reached out to a lot of people today, and I was shocked by how many people said, no, I don't want any more fees. So I think I'm going to change my vote. And I agree with Mr. Sandy that it's just not the right time.
I guess if I can say, I did receive some calls also from citizens who were voiced dissatisfaction with having a portal that everyone pays for and only certain people will use. So.
Mr. Friedels, do you have a comment?
Yeah, so there is other ways, and so I want to make sure that everyone doesn't run out and look at the ones that she sent. There is a YoLink is a Chinese company in there, by the way.
But Becca sent a Chinese one?
Yes, she did.
Oh, wow.
Based in California, but all the parts are shipped from China. But there is some good products out there, and some of the cons of that is adding additional equipment that the user now has to maintain. If we have the smart meter plus the web portal, there's no user interaction from the household, and you can monitor it that way. So people are more than happy. They like the infrared one that you had mentioned. That will not affect any of the utilities or anything. It just uses a little sensor that kind of monitors water. And I know people use it and it works great, but yeah, I think because I'm the techie and I've contacted you about this, before. I think just this is one added expense. Maybe we probably don't need to go. And if I'm going to go use it, I'll probably come to you directly, or we can encourage people to use the the $200 variant of that can go Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. If you don't want it leaving your house, you can go Bluetooth and pick up your stuff from inside. So,
and I just want to say, Mr. Hanson, I think. You didn't bring this forward because this is something you wanted. You were asked by this council to look at the cost for this, and you did begrudgingly and did a very good job presenting it. Many of us have this on our gas and our electric already. I don't know how often you really look at it. I don't know what they're doing to keep the costs low or if it's just baked into our rates. But I appreciate the work that you've done this. I think it's likely to fail, seeing where things are at here. But I think it was a good endeavor regardless, just to see where it was going to land. So I just want to make sure that's clear. This wasn't your idea. This was the council, requesting this back when the water meters were going on. So appreciate that work.
This is exactly what we wanted, was to have you guys give your input, because we didn't want to go through the process of an RFP only for someone to find out that we didn't want to spend the money. And now we don't have to go through the process of writing an RFP.
Well, thanks for getting, just some back of the napkin or some comment on where it would likely fall in, so we didn't have to spend any more time on that. But let's take it to a vote, see where we're at first. Do we have any motions on the subject? Or did you have another comment, Mr. Veen?
Well, I was just going to add, sometimes there's unintended consequences that are good that we didn't maybe plan on. Are there benefits that would ultimately offset the $70,000 payment that we're missing?
I think the biggest benefit for the city and city staff was the notifications to customers. But if we don't have enough buy-in, if not everyone buys in, I couldn't tell you what the payoff would be, but that would be the biggest benefit for us.
Okay.
Is there a way in our current? Is there a way in our current system, instead of snail mailing letters, that the user gets notified based on whatever their phone number is on the bill? Because that's probably what we're looking for, right? Is a quick notification, and not look at something and think it's spam and then throw it in the trash basket.
That's not going to require hiring a staff member for $70,000, is it?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just something to consider. I think, if we can find an easy, SMS program that kind of just ties into the current system, maybe we can figure that out. But
I think that's something we could talk with IT about. They would know. I know we have I wouldn't say all accounts, but for quite a few of the accounts, we have a phone number and an email address. So something we can look into.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, I'll be looking for a motion. You prefer affirmative motions with a defeat, Mr. Gosted, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll move approval.
We got a motion to approve from Mr. Weigel, second from Ms. Berg. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor. Now, just to be clear, a positive vote would mean you want it, and a negative vote would mean you don't. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion is defeated unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
5.9, Franklin on 4th pilot.
Mr. Gosted.
Yeah, this is a cleanup. Franklin on 4th was really from the start of the development. I know that Northridge, the two entities actually own the property, and then because of the platting and some other requirements, it was placed into Franklin on 4th LLC. They did all the development. They own it. The project hasn't changed. The project operator hasn't changed. So really, and we're keeping Northridge as developers on the agreement and the obligations they have, but adding Franklin on 4th LLC as a developer under the agreement.
Any further questions for Mr. Got a motion approved from Vice President Weigel, second from President Sandy. Any further discussion or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
And 5.10, Grand Forks Event Center Commission, Grand Forks City Code members, and general provision amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan.
Yeah, Mayor Bochansky, members of City Council. We have an ordinance change in front of you just to get some feedback for you. We are at a crossroads. We do have 4 Event Center Commission members now. So that provides our majority. We do have 3 vacancies. And so we wanted, before we started to move forward with filling those vacancies, we've had some transitions. If this is a time to further discuss the Event Center Commission and who should represent that commission. Essentially, Mr. Vian was here from the start, as that number one, the Alaris Center was constructed, an Event Center Commission was put into place on behalf of by City Council on their behalf. And so it's stayed relatively the same over the last 25 years plus and has managed that. The one thing that has changed, and I think we've discussed this over time, is the management of the Alaris Center. I think the facility started out being managed by a third party for the first several years of its operation, then went into become city managed with city employees. And I think thankfully from 2016 to 17, we did issue a new RFP, and we did select Spectra at the time, which is now Oakview Group or OVG to manage that facility. So essentially we've gone from a third party manager to start to being city run with city employees to the system that we have right now. And I want to thank Councilmember Veen when we were at the point of having some struggles when it was being city run by city employees. Mr. Veen and I concurred that we should go out and see what kind of third parties are out there that could help manage this facility. And we did do that. We got several firms that did submit, and we had probably 2 top firms. And at the time we picked Spectra, and it's been a very good run over the last almost 9 years now. I'm having them run it. I think the one thing we all agree is that was a very good move, doing an RFP. Number 2, the second really good decision that we made is hiring Spectra. And then the third thing that we did is Spectra brought in Anna Rosberg as the general manager, and she's still here today too. So, and along with Anna, we have a terrific team of employees out at the Alaris Center that are dedicated to the mission. So those 3 things have really fortified us since 2016. And I think Oakview Group or OVG, they've done such a good job. I think that's why we have this discussion in front of you, is that they really have filled the void of really managing that facility day to day, creating partnerships and relationships with all those national firms that they need to bring in events, concerts, and what have you. And so they really filled an effective void that we didn't have. We didn't have it with the prior third-party manager. We didn't have it when the city ran it with city employees. And now we have it with Oakview Group managing the facility that we didn't have. So I think that really they've stepped in to that area, fulfilled a lot of the mission. Currently right now at the Event Center Commission, there are a lot of updates about all the great things that the staff is doing in the various areas. That's kind of one of the main parts of the meeting, and it certainly leads that with all our various team members. I think where the city has stepped in most recently with some of the bidding is I think one of the really big value adds is with the bidding is because the event center commission or staff with OVG, they're more involved in, the partnerships, the marketing, driving business to it. Really, I think it's been a good addition for the city of Grand Forks and in this case, the city engineering to get more involved in the bidding. And I think that provides more standardized way for us to move forward with some of the capital improvements to ensure that we're doing it in a city of Grand Forks way. And so I think that's been a real nice added benefit. And with all those improvements that we've made, with some of those moments of truth that we've had lately, I think that's why it's a really good discussion about what should be the Event Center Commission. The other thing that's come up is who's in charge. And when there's gray areas, there's doubt. And ultimately, we all know whether it's the city of Grand Forks or the Alaris Center, ultimately the city council's in charge on behalf of the citizens of Grand Forks. But I think with the Event Center Commission, there are some questions, there's some doubts about who's ultimately in charge. I think that's raised the concerns. And what we all want, whether you work for the city of Grand Forks or Oakview Group, you want to have a clear understanding about lines of communication, lines of authority, and lines of decision-making so there's no doubts. Because most people only really get involved in those issues when something's not quite right or being questioned, and then everyone's sometimes starts to point fingers, and that's not healthy for anybody who's working around here. So I think with that, that's really why we want to have the discussion. I did have a conversation with Rick Hans, who's Anna Rosberg's boss. He's a senior vice president at Oakview Group. Was able to have a conversation with about this, that we were going to put this on the agenda. We were going to have some further discussions on this matter to get his thoughts. He did tell me that the arrangement in which the city council would be serving as the event center commission is a structure that they see at a lot of their buildings. And that having an advisory group or an event center commission was more the exception to the rule. Not that, it doesn't happen, but really the structure that we have in front of you with ultimately the third party working with city administrative staff leadership, and ultimately with the city council is more the form and function that they've seen at their other buildings. And certainly they've worked under the current status over the last 9+ years. But that was his feedback, that certainly the OVG can work under this proposed new structure. They'll work under the current structure, but they just want to make sure that you understand and appreciate that they appreciate the partnership with the city of Grand Forks. They want to do a great job for Grand Forks and whatever you think is in the best interest. So with that, I put a period on that, Mayor Buczynski. That's where we're at this evening. And similar to OVG, the city administrative staff will do whatever you think is best as our board of directors.
Thank you, Mr. Finney. I just want to add a few comments. I mean, the people that put their time in, that's valuable. People volunteer. They're not paid to do these jobs. 3 members stepped down. I think that their main concern was, in their opinion, that either the commission should have full authority over all decisions there and the council shouldn't be able to step in, or the city should take it all over. And I think there's merit to that. I would probably feel similarly if I was on that board. The issue is going to be is ultimately the building is owned by the city of Grand Forks. So similarly, as we look at the Ultra Sports Complex, we're going to have a similar arrangement. Instead of the third party being OVG, it's going to be the Park District. The city's going to have to make those decisions when it comes to capital. We'll work directly with them. We aren't setting up a third party. So I had met with OVG with Ms. Rosberg and Mr. Hoffert, and we were looking at, do we appoint 3 more people, or should we look at this and decide if we're going to make a change first? Because the last thing I want to do is appoint 3 more people, and then we make a change after that. So I think the last piece, this middle ground, I think the troubling part is working with city staff. We've got city staff that's there. If called upon, they're there to give input, there to give reports and updates, but they're not really there to sort of perceive what the community or the council is going to think and decide. So they're put in a tough spot when you have a bidding thing that they're trying to get it across the finish line, and then it's their fault for not speaking up and saying, you should have done this differently. Well, that's not really your role. You're there when you're called upon. But so I don't really like the way it played out, where certain members of city staff were looked at as if they did something wrong, when I don't think anything was done wrong at all in this entire process. They were trying to get something across the finish line on bidding, and the timeline was tight. We were trying to appease UND so they could get their commencement done and still have football in the fall and make sure that those scoreboards were working. The timeline got tight, so they tried the path with a national provider that does a phenomenal job. Ultimately, looking back, I think we all would have preferred the process would have been slightly different, but that's where we're at today. So that's the reason we're at this point now is really trying to streamline things, lining up similarly with other projects that are happening. I will say I did have a good conversation with Matt Fisher, who's a board member that stuck it out and done a good job. And if this isn't ultimately the route you want to go, we can look at potentially adding another council member, potentially having a council member chair that. There's a lot of options. I think the cleanest is what's being proposed today. We can also keep it as is. So with that, if anyone's got any questions or comments on this, and I know Mr. Osberg is here to answer those questions as well. And I won't speak for you, but in your opinion, obviously grateful work that the commission's done, but you're perfectly comfortable operating going forward in either of those fashions. Is that fair? I'll let you speak for yourself.
Sure,
Mr.
exactly.
Osberg,
Thanks,
please.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Anna Rosberg, General Manager at the Alair Center. I've been here for 9 years already, and we bring the fun to the community. Our mission is economic impact and quality of life. Nothing changes in our day-to-day operation, whether we report directly to the City Council or to the Commission when it comes to that mission statement, when it comes to us going after events aggressively and creatively. Nothing changes when it comes to doing the best thing for the Alair Center every single day. That's what we do for a living. That's why you've hired OVG. You won't see a change in that. I do appreciate the Commission over the last 9 years that I've been here. I know that they've put in hundreds of hours vetting projects. You do have a professional management company. So I would say in most cases, and I am in a regional capacity now too. So in the venues that I oversee across the Midwest, most cases we're reporting directly to whoever that final authority board is, whether that's a county commission, whether that's a city council, whether that's a university. It is a rare dynamic when we have a board in between. I've loved it personally, and I think we've had people that have been great and worked really hard. But when the rubber meets the road, I think that's when things get disaligned. And so from our standpoint, again, we're always going to bring forth to whatever board or entity we're reporting to what we think is in the best interest of the building. And we're going to give you the facts and data as to why. But I think when we've had disalignments in the past between the commission's authority and the city council's authority, at the end of the day, it is a city-owned entity. So you are the final authority that way. And as my boss Rick said, and as Todd had said here for us, we're happy to report to whoever we need to report to, because our narrative doesn't change regardless of the audience. We will be here to do the best thing for the Alair Center, no matter what. And I would say that the building and the commission in the last 25 years have always operated transparently. So I would like to state that for the record. We've always had 2 meetings every month on the record, open to the public. The difference is if you come in, we'll give you lunch if you're here for these long meetings, and we're always welcoming citizens for that. Now we're here in city council chambers as of our last meeting. That's fine. Again, we have said if you want to meet in any entity that you want to meet, we're fine to do that. Those meeting minutes have always been posted publicly. Those agendas have always been posted publicly. We've always been on the record. All of those recorded tapes exist for as long as that city policy and century code require. So when we worry about concerns of transparency, that's never been a concern. All of our financials are always public. All of those things are always public, outside of like very nuanced event details, attendance, or specific deal points with a promoter that obviously we wouldn't want our competitors to get a hold of. But our bottom line financials have always been and will always be completely open to the public because we are owned by the city of Grand Forks. So nothing changes from that point. I appreciate the commission. We are in a fork in the road at this point. They've been wonderful the last 9 years and beyond that. And I know how hard and how many nuances that they've worked with us nights, weekends, holidays, gotten back to us at all hours of the day when we've got something going on to make sure that we are properly vetting every possible outcome and capital project. But we also work very closely with city staff as well. Maureen and Mike and her team in finance, we're working on capital plans 20, 30 years out. So that work doesn't stop regardless of who we report to. So from our standpoint, our job is economic impact and quality of life, and you'll continue to see that from us day to day.
President Sandy.
Ms. Rosberg, has your role at OVG changed recently?
3 years ago, I became a district general manager. So we've got several other accounts in the Midwest that their GMs report to me, and then I report to our SVP.
So have you been traveling a fair amount?
I've been traveling a fair amount the last 3 years. Yep.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Buczynski, if I could add.
Mr. Phelan.
I also did follow up with UND and Visit Greater Grand Forks are obviously two important partners. I did talk to Athletic Director Bill Chaves. He said he'd respect the wishes of whatever the city council deemed appropriate for the organization. They'll work with whatever the structure is. I also visited with Julie Reagan. She said similar. I think the most important thing, what they've said, is they have a great working relationship with OVG and their staff in making things happen, and along with city staff. So that remains strong. And both persons on behalf of their entity said they would work with whatever governing strategy the city council thought was best.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. And this would be a first reading. I don't know if you want to discuss what you've got in the, you basically, just to ensure there was no issues with contracts, you have, why don't you go ahead, Mr. Gosted.
There was some thought of just repealing the entirety of the chapter with respect to the Event Center Commission. However, I don't know what contracts exist out there that have the Event Center on them, and it might create confusion. And so the changes are really to place the membership just with the mayor and city council. The meetings, there won't be a separate meeting. It would just be embedded within an agenda item for the city council. It wouldn't be like the JDA. You have a separate, like today, you won't have a separate meeting. Any matter that deals with the event center would come up through a regular meeting in an agenda item. The other thing is there was one change. It looks like we're removing all kinds of language about getting information about the event center. What I did is I just put all that into one subsection rather than two. So you're going to get the same reports on a monthly basis. You'll get the annual financial statement and you'll get the 3-year capital expenditure. I just put that into one subsection, and that's why you'll see it looks like we're removing all that information, but it's still going to be there. So,
Ms. Rosberg, did you have something to add on that?
Sure. When it comes to contracts, from the beginning, those have always been vetted by the OVG attorney as well as the city attorney, just so everybody kind of has an understanding of that. And all of those contracts that we enter are by and through the Alaris Center, which is owned by the city of Grand Forks. So I don't think Event Center Commission exists, to my knowledge, in any of our contracting language.
Okay. Thank you. Going to save you some time, Mr. Gosted. Yeah. All right, looking for comments. Why don't we I'm going to have Mr. Veen just go first as the representative on that. I know he's got probably a differing stance than.
No, first of all, thank you. I did talk to the mayor and Mr. Sandy about this is a good time to have this discussion. At this point, we have kind of a break here, which allows us to kind of take a step back and look at what's actually in the best interest of the city. It's certainly not about me and going forward, and I'm trying to protect my turf or anything like that. I wanted to just kind of step back and take a look at this thing here objectively to figure out what is really the best path forward. The current what's difficult is the current Alaris Center outcomes are outstanding. I mean, I think we are probably the best example, probably in the whole upper Midwest, of how an event center could run. And we are getting outcomes we never dreamed of 10 years ago. Agree, OVG and Anna have been a big part of that, but it has been a collaboration with the commission too. I've been through at least 3, maybe 4 different chairs who have formed very good alliances, I think, with you, Anna, so that when you're working with somebody, you're working with the chair and I guess solving and having impart many of these great outcomes. And I think we can't lose sight of that and those chairs have almost always been, or have always been, significant business leaders in the community that have been a part of that. So they bring that business perspective to the center that wouldn't exist maybe politically. And I think we talked a little bit about this. The question is it going to be politically led, or would it be led by the commission, which is made up of the business people out there? So I think that's the thing that I've kind of struggled with. We've had success. We have a great structure. It's been collaborative. I know so often they're in your office or you're meeting with with them. You know, when you have a new act coming, you have certain amount of things that you keep in confidences, and you've been able to do that. The other thing I kind of did, and I didn't spend a lot of time, but I tried to do a little bit of what I could with the time I had, was to look at why we even have an event center commission. What's the purpose of that? And what was kind of the intent? And I know we all got many of us at least an email from Hal Gershman, because Hal, I think, was president of the council at the time, and he is a fairly significant business leader in town, very significant. And anyway, trying to get a little bit of that history and that background for why he, being the strong leader he was politically, actually chose to create an event center commission that was going to be the lead. And he brought an interesting perspective because he also later on became a commissioner. He wasn't just a former city council person, and was able to be on the commission. And I did also check some with Mr. Kroon, who was on the council at the time, and also I believe on the commission too. And it was very interesting that they felt that importance of having that business perspective to know how to look at risk, when you should try something or not, was something that fit kind of and aligned with them, their mentality and how they work as business people. They said the council needed to look at the entirely big picture, and I kind of put him on probably a little bit of notice as what was, again, what inside your head, what was the thinking? And he said something like this, and I got it pretty close. He said the council should not have the sin of pride and control, but create a commission that runs consistently of experienced business people. And that would be what they tried to accomplish through this whole process and bring this forward. There's one thing I have to 100% agree on. What we're doing today isn't working. It's got to be either go back to the original design of the intent, maybe, of the ordinance, or move it over to the council. Because what's happening in between is confusing. It's confusing to the people on the commission. It's confusing to the Alerus staff. So something has to happen. The question for me is, does it make sense to make this change and to understand what that means? I looked around, or at least what I could find. Anna, you know this probably better than I do, but I looked at what the adjacent institutional government structure is. Of course, the Alerus Center currently has the Event Center Commission. Engelstead Arena has their own through the Engelstead Family Foundation, but the Bismarck Event Center has now created an authority very similar to what we exist now. They've gone from city to having a event center authority working with OVG. Fargo Dome has a dome authority and with the executive staff. You got correct me if I'm wrong, Denny Sanford Premier Center has an advisory board, and so does the Sanford Center in Bemidji. All of them have some level of board, I believe, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me on any of that. But that's what, at least, that I looked at. So although I know maybe from the industry wide where you're coming from this perspective around here, we've all been operating under something similar to that, and wanted to make sure that we had that that perspective, I guess, as we take a look at this. I think the best thing I can tell you, and I wrote that, so we have, through this process over the last 8+ years, the building is amazing. The event, we are an example of what event centers should look like. Shining star in the upper Midwest. Our management is being sought after. And I want to make sure that they can seek, but they don't get. That's all I want to make sure happens. Never been more profitable, have record-breaking things going on. been able to experience and include quality of life initiatives that we wanted to make sure happen, even if they're not always profitable. And we've had to work, even though the city has awarded tax incentives to competing venues, we're still staying and operating quite well. Our annual reports all come out very good. And we do internally a qualitative and quantitative report to assess what we're doing. And again, extremely high results with what we've got. So part of it is, if what we have is working so well, is it makes sense to change it at this point in time. And so I throw that out as a question. We'll operate well either way, I believe, but what we've been doing lately has been really, really good. And thank you for doing that. And actually, the collaboration we've had internally with some of these last projects internally has been amazing. It isn't like we're fighting against each other. We're trying to work with each other to the best that we can. So anyway, I just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Did you have a comment, Mr. Rosberg?
Yes, on the advisory boards, just Mayor and Councilmember Veen, who's obviously been the historian and has been a huge Alair Center champion for many years. So thank you for the kind words. Some of those boards are structured a little bit differently. So it depends on if the building is publicly owned. Obviously, the Ralph is a private entity. Their board operates a little bit differently. Yeah. Bismarck just joined the OVG family as of May 1st, so just a couple days in, and they did structure their advisory board based on our commission. They've been doing research with us for several years, so that one is going to operate similar to how the commission has operated and currently is operating the last 25 years. But I would say most of the other advisory boards that we see are there for updates on marketing, sales, that sort of thing. They're not getting into the nuts and bolts of capital planning. They're not getting into the nuts and bolts of having the authority to issue RFPs, award bids, that sort of thing. So I would say in most cases when we see a board that also then reports to a city council or a county commissioner, whoever that client is, whoever the final authority is, we're not seeing as many of those where there's right now the commission has that authority to do these things. And we've seen recently that then there's been disalignment between city council. And it's only been a couple times in 25 years. So again, this is for your discussion, but I just wanted to answer that question that most of those are advisory rather than authority boards. And so that would be the distinction, other than Bismarck, who just put in this, because ours had functioned so well for 25 years, just put in a very similar structure, and I'll be helping advise them on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one question for you. Mr. Veen kind of mentioned the history and how important it was having business owners. Are you asking the commission to make business decisions on behalf of OVG? And is that still happening in the way it was when that was owned by the city? Or being the industry experts, I would assume, I guess I'll let you speak for that, you're making most of those business decisions.
I would say on anything day-to-day, operationally, we're making those business decisions and we're providing updates at the publicly noticed and open meetings. We work very closely with the commission on capital. They're very involved on the finance and renovation side of things, and then going to the commission for the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, and then beyond. But I would say that's been very collaborative with Ken as our council liaison, Rain Storstad and her staff from finance, Todd, of course, and then the commission. So I would say capital is maybe where we have the most influence, and having those day-to-day business leaders and experts has been positive in that this council, everybody that's been involved, the commission staff has been very proactive with the Alair Center for all of these years to make sure that if we have issues, if we have systems that are end of life, we're always willing to invest to make sure that we are the envy of our competitors, and we're continuing to put those capital dollars in. And I would say that's a huge part of our competitive advantage right now. And so that's really important to maintain. So I would say from the capital side of things, we've had more influence with the commission on day-to-day operations. Typically, I work with the commission chair and Todd as our sort of contract administrator that we see in most of our structures for anything that we're taking risk or business decisions on touring acts or anything of that nature. But general business decisions or policies, that's what we're doing internally, and we bring that expertise from all over the country and all over the world, frankly. So we're usually coming to the commission with, this is what we're doing as an FYI, rather than typically looking for guidance outside of the capital planning, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you probably didn't want this, but
I sure don't, Mr. Mayor.
You are the experts. You know the business better than anyone else. So what's your preference going forward? If you had to choose, what is your preference?
My preference, and I'm going to say this on record, my preference would be to not have to be in a situation where the city council and the event center commission are disaligned, because it's not a productive or comfortable place for any of us. And I know it hasn't been comfortable for city staff either. So I can live in any situation other than when we're in a situation where we have the authority at the commission and then now we're shooting first and asking questions later, or the perception of that on either side. I am staff. I am not an appointed official like the Event Center Commission has been. I'm not an elected official like the council is. My job is to do the best thing for the Alair Center. So either of those scenarios are livable. I would request that we make very clear, definitive, one way or the other from a staff standpoint. And if I can comment one last thing, and then I'll get out of here unless you need additional questions. How did I do on dodging that question, Mr.
I was going to say, you're not an elected
Thank you.
official, but that was a pretty political answer.
And I haven't read everything in the ordinance change. And again, this is your decision. But I did hear something about financials. What we would do just as a standard operating procedure, whether it's written in or not, that we do anyway, is we provide those monthly financials to our commission in the city. We do that for all of our clients throughout our portfolio, regardless if they're private, if they're county-owned, university-owned, municipality, it doesn't matter. We're always doing that. That's an OVG standard. So you would still see those financials every month. We would send those, if we went in the direction of not having an event center commission, those would go to Todd Marine, and they would disseminate however they feel appropriate. And we would come quarterly or however often this body would want us to do if we went that direction. So I think we have workable solutions either way. Nothing changes on our end as far as working in the best interest of the Alair Center.
Thank you, Ms. Rosberg. Ms. Lunsky, please, you had to wait a long time, so please go ahead.
I'm just curious, this didn't come to committee of the whole. Does it need to be voted on tonight?
So the reason it didn't is because Mr. Bean was gone last week. So we gave him, as the member on there, we gave him the courtesy of waiting to have the discussion while he was here. And this would be the first reading, so we wouldn't need to make a final decision tonight. We'd have certainly another committee of the whole and another council meeting to make that.
The decision we're voting on tonight is just to move it forward?
You have an ordinance in front of you, so this would be the first reading of that ordinance, but it would require a second reading.
So in between now and that second reading, could we get a presentation that says exactly what the commission does, what OVG does, and how? I know we got a small sample tonight, but just a little bit more detail.
I think, Mr. Phelan, you could put something together.
I could do that. I'll work in alignment with OVG and Mr. Gostin. We'll come back with a side by side, and if you did pass, provide final approval, what that would look like.
Okay. President Sandy.
I'd like to see our contract. I know with our contract with OVG, with Ms. Rosberg's promotion, which congratulations. She's a big reason why we went with OVG in the first place. And if she isn't spending as much time in Grand Forks or at the Alair Center, that might change my opinion on how we move management forward. So thank you.
Any further comments from
Mayor
council?
Wojcinski, one more thing. We mentioned the fact that we're coming up, next year is our 10th year of this agreement. And so we're going to issue RFPs and do a selection process. So I think it's good that we, make a final decision leading up to that RFP. So, firms that apply kind of know what the horizon looks like and how they're going to engage from a governance perspective.
All right. Any further comments from council members? Otherwise, any motions?
I'd like to see it continue as is. But you like to vote in the affirmative or propose things in the affirmative, correct?
Well, that's Mr. Gossed's preference. I think it's Robert Rule's preference. Is that correct?
Yeah. The motion should be in the affirmative to approve the ordinance. You can vote against it. Vote no.
Or you cannot do anything. I mean, that would kill it too. So keep that in mind.
So
Mr. Friedhoff, please.
In lines with Ms. Lunsky said, I'd like to see. I'm not an event planner. I am not in that business, but I want to see the financials, right? And I think everyone deserves that. I'd definitely like to see the roles and the swim lanes of who's doing what to whom on this whole thing, just to make sure that we're clear and we're signing up for something that we're not going to hinder the great job that they do. I mean, Anna does wonderful work. Since I've been here for, so many years now, I've worked with her on stuff, and I just think what they do is a great quality of life thing. And we definitely don't want to push that's the limit where we're making decisions, we're holding things up, and we just got the whole thing off the tracks now. And I just want to make sure that we're all signing up for the right thing.
Well, why don't we have a motion to just move this to the committee of the whole, and we'll have another look at it. I'm not going to work on appointing anybody till I know what this board has gotten. I'm not going to start that process till I know what this board plans to do. So we can have further discussion. I need to still have a first reading, so it'd give you 3 or 4 more weeks to ponder and review that. So I don't know if anyone wants to make that motion to move this to the,
Yeah,
there we go.
I'll make that
Ms.
motion.
Berg. I'm going to give it to Mr. Friedhoff because he was already talking. Ms. Berg seconds it. Any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, is that it for action items? Move on to 6. Item 6, information items. There are none. So move on to 7, approval of minutes and bills.
7.1, vendor list and engineer's estimate, that's attached.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from Berg, second from Ms. Linsky. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
And 7.2 minutes from April 20th.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve as is from Berg, second from Friedolfs. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, city administrator comments. Any comments this evening, Mr. Phelan?
2 things. Tammy Lazur wanted to let you know that she dropped off that annual report from the assessing department that has some really good graphics on it. I think I would point out a few things. Number 1 is if you look at the mill levy and the reductions, I think the city of Grand Forks has done a terrific job. Our colleagues over at the Park District have done a good job. And so the other entities have not reduced, but you've done a terrific job. Not that we can't do better, but we've done a terrific job. I think the other thing I would note is the amount of building value that we've added over the last several years is quite impressive if you look at that. And then I also want to pay note of how important the city of Grand Forks is to Grand Forks County overall, where we're 75% of the value of the county mill. And so what are we trying to do here every week? We're trying to drive value because we know that it's important to the city of Grand Forks, but it's tremendously important to the county itself. So I wanted to point out those few things. The other thing, and I wanted to point out, I just got a message, and Mr. Veen will know this, that this is good because we have water meters, but a gentleman named Dwight Wurzbacher passed away, and he worked for the city for a little over 40 years. He was the water distribution superintendent. So he was employed here from 1963 to 2004. I got to work with him as the public works director for several years. And Dwight was, well, as his name would say, he was kind of a tough German kind of guy. And he was tough, but he was like a lot of tough guys. He was soft underneath all that tough exterior, and was really a terrific guy. And the 2 things that I really remember about him, and what he did is he loved water meters because they were the cash register for the water. So why are all these things important? It's kind of hard to bill if our water meters aren't working. So those are really important. So the other thing is he was from the migration of where water meters readers had to go into the house to read the actual meter. And so there was a little encoder on the outside of houses that he was the guy that got that done on behalf of the city of Grand Forks. And then after the flood, we replaced all of our water meters, and then we went to a drive-by system. And so I worked with him on that project on then having a drive-by system. So we went from going into the house with Dwight to reading him on the outside of the house to then being to drive by. And now when I think about Dan Hansen and all we're doing, we're to the next extreme of fixed route system. The other thing, we talk about water main replacement. And so he was the guy who got the water main replacement program going, and where we set aside money in the Water Enterprise Fund, and we replaced so many of the water mains in town. And it was generally that water main, I'm going to say from like 1946 to 1964, something like that. I can't remember. Sorry, Dwight, I can't remember. But that was all the post-World War II, where the steel the ductile was not as good as what it was before the war, but I'm sure there was a lot of recycling that was done after World War II, and the pipe wasn't. So that's the pipe that we are still replacing today. So when Dan Hansen comes up here, that's the same stuff we're going to be at. So in honor of Dwight, I thought of a General Douglas MacArthur quote to Congress. This is when President Truman had to tell him he had to come home and he was going to be done. So he said, his quote was, "Old soldiers never die, they just fade away." And so I think of Dwight as that he might be fading away, but all his great work is still with us today. So here's to Dwight Wurzbacher and a great career. Thank you, Mayor.
Well said, Mr. Phelan. Thank you.
His target was 5 breaks per block. It had to be replaced. So.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item 9. Wrapping up here, Mayor and Council member comments. Ms. Osowski's not here, so go right to you, Ms. Berg. Any comments?
No, thank you.
Ms. Lunsky, comments. Mr. Friedolfs?
No, thank you.
Mr. Veen? Wow, we're going well. Vice President Weigel?
No, thanks.
President Sandy?
I'm hungry, Mayor. Let's go.
All right, I got one comment tonight, and I don't know how we're going to adjourn because Ms. Osowski's here, but I did want to thank my mother. Sat through her first council meeting here since I've been mayor. So Debbie Bochensky is here. So thank you. You're getting a round of applause. I never get a round of applause. Anyway, so thanks for sitting through this, Mom. Love you. And with that, we'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Berg, second by Vice President Weigel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.